Kuweka vitisho wakati anaona hana nafasi. Mimi nataka kumhakikishia tu kwamba mimi kama gavana Kilifi na watu wangu wa Magarini, vile tumekubaliana, tutamrudisha kombe Alhamisi bungeni, kwa sababu tumefanya kampeni na wananchi wameniahidi kwamba watampatia kombe, wamrudishe amalize muda wake. Kama nataka kumwambia aache kuwa na mahangaiko, kama nataka akuje, bado siku mwisho ni leo. Bahati mbaya angekuja mwenyewe, alituma watu wake hapa na walijionea wenyewe kwamba Magarini imeenda. Kwa hivyo mimi nataka tu kumwambia tumemzoea, si mageni kwetu, kwamba yeye kila siku kazi yake tu ni vitisho, lakini nataka kumwambia na sio leo, hii ya leo tu tunamaliza Magarini. Hii Kilifi na Pwani ataisahau uchaguzi ujao.
Basia Senator Okoh has moved to court seeking declarations that the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has been acting unconstitutionally by establishing and operating a national tallying center with powers to verify, alter or retally presidential election results. The senator argues that the provisions of Articles 86 and 138 of the Constitution outline a straightforward, transparent and final process for counting, tallying and declaring presidential election results at the constituency level, leaving no room for further verification at the national stage. Omtata argues that the Constitution requires that votes be counted at polling stations, collated at the constituency, and the results declared promptly and openly by constituency returning officers whose announcements are intended to be final. The activist turned senator says that the law passed by Parliament and the regulations crafted by the IBC have unlawfully expanded the Commission's powers by creating a national tallying centre that assumes a role the Constitution does not envisage. And finally, Nairobi City County is grappling with 86 billion shillings in outstanding bills left by previous administrations. Appearing before the Senate Committee on Devolution, Governor Johnson Sakaja noted that City Hall inherited 118 billion shillings in pending bills when he assumed office in 2022. Sakaja said that the debt includes 16 billion shillings left by the now defunct Nairobi Metropolitan Services. He also defended his administration's decision to move hospital deposit accounts to CDN Bank, saying the move was informed by financial considerations. He was responding to a question from Kisii Senator Richard Onyonka.
Are you sure that if we were to consider what other commercial banks are offering, that CDN would actually be offering this purely on a business basis and not because of the connections of the owners? That's really the point. And I'm not accusatory. I'm just trying to ask if the evidence...
Can I answer?
Yes.
Okay. They have given us the best deal, and it's an administrative decision. We have looked at all these other banks. We invited them. We've looked at different commercial banks, and let me not name. No one is charging us no processing fee as a percentage. No one is giving us that rate.
That's the news wire. I'm Leah.
102.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing police of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
You have land, Dennis.
Yeah.
Okay, your own land. You use your own money to build it, and then you sell it to yourself. But we don't want foreign troops on Kenyan soil.
But sure, it goes a little bit deeper. This is it. If you find the tree is withering, then you call the person who is managing that tree. Come around.
Yeah,
Why? Tell me what is
first of all, what's the problem?
Yes, what is the problem there?
How do we expect ourselves to move forward as a country?
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice. When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
He himself actually has admitted that he bribed members of parliament, so...
he admitted that he bribed members of parliament?
Well, when he said...
The government.
Yeah, when he said that he gave the 10 million was for what?
We're always quick to point faults in somebody else before you look at your own faults as a person.
If it was Kanu's day, hii amuka naye leo, ungekuwa umeenda bali sana hii. So and we must celebrate you.
There are 600 million people now globally estimated to be living with diabetes in the world. So it is a major health problem. It's the largest single disease rising pandemic that we're dealing with right now.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, staki kuongea. Conversations have to be had,
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
Presidency is fairly interesting in the sense that it will actually take us to a new consciousness.
Swali zile watu waulizi na swali muuliza na shangala ni aje kwani huku kunaendaje?
30 billion shillings annually on travel alone in public service.
A Kenyan can even demonstrate every single day of his life that Ruto must go. That is the only message of his demonstration. That is his right.
That bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and subverts the cause of those who are in the right.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it.
say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
SRC's mandate is constitutional. It's not an advice. It's actually something you must do.
Must do.
Like now, you abandon, of course, the narrative of wheelbarrow, Mutomjengo, Mamamboga, and all those, that rosy narrative.
Your expenditure is 3.3 trillion, and you're collecting only 2.5. Out of that 2.5, you're spending 1.8 trillion to service loans and so forth.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. It's the 25th of November. Imagine. It's the 25th of November. Where? Okay. Sawa.
We'll repeat.
It's the 25th of November.
Let us now bolden that and underline it.
In case you did not know, just in case maybe you were not next to a calendar or you didn't know.
Or you're using the Ethiopian calendar still. It is the 25th.
It is still the 25th of November. Let me just say that for all parties concerned. Hey, speaking of parties, conference of parties. Welcome back from Bethlehem.
Thank you. Belém.
Belém, yeah.
But they call it Belém.
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 Belém. Yes.
Mambo vipi lakini?
Fresh.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Umemisiwa.
Me too. Yeah, miss sana.
Lots happened. Lots has gone down while you were away.
While I was away, tell me.
While you were away, people moved to Mbere North. They left their homes and their jobs. They said, I'm going to go and look for a place to live in Mbere North. So things have been happening.
Yeah,
while you were away.
Finally, I heard the deputy president mention that term, one term.
You said it.
Remember when you one term MP?
While you are away, you are addressed as a state.
Oh yeah,
as the constitution dictates. The president addressed us.
Yes.
So while you are away, a lot has happened.
Yeah.
And that state has made us make many statements thereafter.
Kamanya, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm awake.
Okay, that's a good place to start.
That's a good place to start.
Yes, the eyes are open, the heart is thumping.
And I don't know whether it's while you are coming back, not while you are away now. I don't know if you are away and do, but we cross many rivers in this life, right?
Okay.
But there is one more river you cross over to, and then that's the end of your life.
Oh, is it your birthday today?
No, it's not a birthday.
Okay,
He's Jimmy Cliff. He's a reggae maestro.
Yeah.
He passed on.
He did.
And he had that song, Many Rivers to Cross. So,
I've got many rivers to cross.
Yeah, that one. So may he rest in power.
Yeah. That was the one. Joyline. Well, okay, that's a farewell, but definitely the impact that he left on culture is a big one.
Yeah, big time.
Big time.
Big time. I think a lot of his music will be playing out in this coming week.
Probably.
And I don't know where those legends are fading away. I think it's just the natural course.
As would be, and then the folks coming to fill their space. But there's something about music that transcends time. I mean, some of the greats, their music we still play today. We have people who are 15 years old who are discovering the likes of Michael Jackson.
Yes. Right.
And Roberta Flack and Harry Belafonte.
Yes.
So come on, it transcends time.
Femi Kuti.
Exactly.
Fela
Kuti, Femi Kuti. Yeah. For sure. That's what music does, isn't it?
Yep,
it's a good reminder, for sure. If he is in white, Yani White, she's decided that she's going to tell you today that purity is my portion.
Portia.
Good morning. And then there is Sally. Sally, why are you angry? Are you happy to see us?
She's just walking around with my missed call, by the way.
Dennis called you, then you didn't pick your phone. It can never happen.
Yeah.
Why are we?
She's walking around with my missed call. It's cool. No pressure.
So you return it back. She says she will call you. If she doesn't call you, talk to me.
What I wanted to say was it's important at that time.
But now it's not.
No, it's not.
Oi,
she knows why.
Oh, okay. Yeah. She'll sort you out. Well, if he is in white, Joyline is in black. Nini, guys.
Black don't fade, don't crack.
Black don't crack. Don't let me get started. It could take us somewhere we don't want to go. But and then Christine today is smiling. Yesterday, Christine, Christine had a rough day yesterday. But look, Christine, let me tell you, life above everything. You okay? You're fine.
You see, Christine, this is a point where you're being told, Karibu Nairobi.
Karibu Nairobi. And it brings me, let me tell you guys a story.
See?
Because we can do stories, can't we?
Right, yes.
Yeah.
So, my first time in Kenya, tell me, come on, I'm coming from. My father said, my first time in Kenya, when they had refused me to go to Egypt, they said, no, go to Kenya because, let's see, your older brother and sister had gone there before. Just go. If you don't like it after a year, you can leave. Story. That's another story. So, I get onto campus that I'm coming into the city, and then I have this gold chain that my father had given me. In fact, it had the letter E because my first name starts with E, of course. So I did not know what was going on. I won't forget, I was wearing a green collar shirt, and I got off the bus. We're going to the city because I was going to collect money that my father had sent to me for pocket money.
Western Union, eh?
Yes. I'm walking, I won't forget, I'm walking down Moy Avenue because that's where the bus would drop us, and then we go to town. I'm walking with somebody. Gold chain just there. Some raggedy, ratchet-looking, dirty somebody came and grabbed my gold chain off my neck. And then the guy did not even run. He just took a few steps. And then do you know what he said to me? He now said to me, in the words, essentially, close your shirt. After you steal from me, then you even tell me to be pious in my dressing. You're mad. And I was wondering, what is this? What is this? Called my father, said, I'm going home today. Whatever you need to do, book the flight, do the what? I'm going home today. Yeah, but it didn't happen.
Still Kenya.
Yeah.
By choice, man. You get into this country kutoka ni matanga.
Where? So Christine, don't worry. You'll be all right. You'll be all right.
Utakuwa sawa.
Yeah. So that's the story for the day.
Karibu mjini.
Hey, my friend. It was quite heartbreaking. Yeah. So we've all been through it, I guess, at one point or the other. So such is life. I tell you quickly what we'll be talking about today. Yes. Because, we're getting into yesterday was the last day of campaigns towards the by-elections. And so IEBC, of course, is making sure that all the bells and whistles are in place. So let me let you know what our conversations will be around today. We're going to start off with one conversation at 7 a.m. looking into what by-elections, the final leg, a reflection of 2027, is it? Many are saying that it is. If we see what's going on now, this is probably just a taste of what's happening later. It's the hors d'oeuvre of the meal, essentially. And then, so joining us for that conversation will be Dr. Harun Isaac Hassan. He's a governance expert. We'll look into it, and we'll just have a little bit of a conversation around that. 8 o'clock then gives us a chance to talk about the JSS autonomy debate. For now, JSS remains domiciled in primary schools. For all intents and purposes, JSS is secondary school. It's junior secondary. But for now, they're going to remain. What does that mean for teachers? That in terms of promotion, they will not be. They are seen as lower cadre teachers because they teach in a primary school. So what does that mean for them? But JSS teachers are looking for autonomy, and they say, let us have it. Paul Wakongo is the interim secretary general at Kejusta. Joseph Karori is a union official with the Kenya National Union of Teachers Nairobi branch. We'll have that conversation with both these gentlemen at 8 o'clock. And then we'll wrap things up with Terry Maindo, who is a Gender Equality and Social Inclusion Coordinator with Care Kenya, and Javan Kado is a reproductive health and rights specialist. Why are we having a conversation with them? Because yesterday was the first day of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, as it does happen every year around this time. We'll be talking about breaking the cycle, ending online violence against women and girls. It's a thing, this online violence. We'll talk about that at 9 o'clock. So that's what it looks like today. We'll get into those conversations. And then, Oga, now that you're back and you're giving us a problem from a different African country today.
Yes.
All right, go.
So I'm back to the country, and we've just been reminded of the reggae icon who's just passed on. But there's also a quote that one Raila Odinga left us. Don't be afraid of dying. Even if you die and go to hell, there's nothing to worry about, because you'll find many of your friends there.
Oh, wow.
Ouch.
Huh?
Well, I guess I'll speak of the don't be afraid of dying. Where my friends will be, I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. But I think it speaks to the essence of that this is life.
Yeah.
You know, someday, somehow, you transition to the next phase. When you're still alive and even after death. And I guess it matters what you do when you're alive, because when you transition next, you don't know where you're going to land, you know. So I think in life, as you say, you don't know, you'll find most of your friends, even if you go to hell. It means there are consequences to each and every action that we engage in, both when you're alive and when in the spirit world. So I think just do right. At all times.
Yeah.
Choices have consequences.
Yeah.
Please repeat that again, yo.
Well, true. I guess you don't know where you're going. So you need to make the journey as good as possible. I don't know, that you can actually determine where you go by how you behave and what you do now. I mean, there are many people who say there's no heaven, there's no hell. Well, okay, so let's assume that there is. And if heaven is the great place and hell is the bad place, then you need to do what you do to make sure that you go to the good place, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, I look at it from the aspects of, at the end of the day, each and every single person will test death. Each and every single person will transition to one point or the other. And with that, despite the challenges that you face today, some would really bring you down to a point of, I'm almost at the limit. But whatever you do today is what people will be talking about tomorrow. So today, Raila Odinga passed on, but people still talk of his fight for democracy in the country and his contribution to where the country is today. You know, so at the end of the day, we speak about the legacy and what he did when he was alive. So live today, because time is of essence. You know, like once a minute has passed, it's gone. Now is what is important. So use now well.
True. Absolutely. You know, I think there are many lessons to be learned just from that one. So saying a very good morning to everybody who tunes in this morning. Our live streams are up on YouTube, on Facebook, and on X. Karibuni sana sana. And our audience on KTN as we get into the Situation Room for the last time in November this week. And thank you for always tuning in and keeping it with us today. So let's say a quick good morning to you as we get into things today. Good morning from Nairobi, Pan-African Kenyan. We see you. Good morning. And George Adimo is tuned in from Rongo. Robert Bogo tuning from Mombasa this morning. Tupak Shakur, sawa. This is Tupo area. Okay, good to have you in the room this morning. Karibu sana. Tuned in from Mombasa is Peter Kiarie. He says, to an ant, a coconut shell filled with water is an ocean. All about perspective, I guess. You know, how you see it. Kisa Daniel tuned in and says, watching live from UG. Jimmy Munothi, good morning, Spice. What happened in Narok? Are we creeping towards a position like our Jiranis? Well, very interesting to see. Tibbs Muge says, good morning, Spice FM team. Linda Gola says, good morning, people. ¿Cómo estás, Aseto?
Good morning.
Estoy muy bien.
But I thought you were going to answer in Spanish. No? Okay.
I was speaking Portuguese.
You're speaking Portuguese. Okay, obrigado. Obrigado.
De nada. Hey.
Okay.
See.
SLB there says, good morning, people. We are listening to you. Don't you feel it's time for God to what? Don't you feel it's time for God to intervene since some people don't want to grab the Indian Ocean? Yeah, God have mercy on us. Enjoy your day, people. Well, yeah, it is time. Eric Owar says, good morning, guys. Mungai is tuned in this morning and says, can see clearly now. Good morning, team. Can we see clearly now? Yes. I can see clearly now. The rain is gone.
That's Jimmy Cliff's song.
That's Jimmy Cliff, yeah.
The late.
It's a good one. Rest in peace, Jimmy Cliff. Cecilia Ngwenyi says, good morning, Team Spice. Tuned in from New Jersey. God is good to Jenge Taifa, Kabisa. Mashari and Jerry is tuned in this morning from Portland in Oregon with love. Asante Sana. And Koech Kennedy is watching live from Kericho. You're indeed a big media for enlightening Kenyans. Thank you for tuning in every morning to help us have this conversation. Cecilia says, exactly 1 month to Christmas. Mandazi is Zidi.
Kabisa.
1 month to Aseto's birthday. Yes. We'll not forget he's a Christmas baby. Mary's boy child.
Yeah.
James Gav says, good morning. Good morning to Mewamis, by the way. So, Madly African says, good morning, team TSR. Welcome back, Aseto. We missed you.
Missed you guys too.
Jimmy Munuthi says, Asante Sana, and welcome back, Jimmy. Welcome back, Aseto. I think the situation room is addictive, says Maida. The other day when you were off air, I almost suffered a nervous breakdown. Those are the kind of drugs we like. Those ones we say don't go to rehab. Sawa.
Let me tell you. When you were coming back from Brasilia.
Yeah.
Got to Doha, and there is a specific area where we had to use because of coming from South America, so there is fear of drugs being whatever.
La droga.
Yo, it's different coming from South America.
Oh, really?
The way you're treated is a little bit on the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to go through, and then now it doesn't help that I'm black. I was wearing a hoodie, so I went through.
Now you just look like
I went through a second X-ray screening. Just so they make sure. Yeah.
Wow.
At some point, I had to actually talk down that officer because while he was doing his thing, he touched me inappropriately, and it became a fight.
I thought you wanted to fight somebody.
I was like, you can't touch me.
Hey,
like
bro.
that. I'm sorry.
Step back.
Please, you can't touch me like that. Yeah. Whatever you're looking for, it's not here. Take me to the X-ray machine.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Look at how Joe's looking at you.
That tall man looked at me and was like, Who did you just? I'm like, you can't touch me like that. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Happens.
Okay.
I don't identify as a black person. I identify as an African.
Yeah.
And a conversation for another day, because it's even when you're filling all these international forms.
Yeah.
There is no slot for you to tick that you're an African.
No, there isn't.
You're black.
You're black or you're other.
Other.
Yeah.
So I am not black. I am African, and I like the standing up for our own space.
I like that.
Actually, that's how we need to respect one another. It's okay. We respect the scrutiny, but it has to be humane.
Yeah,
it must be humane.
Yeah.
Treat me with dignity.
Yeah.
Because
if you have an X-ray machine, why are you touching? Let me go to that X-ray machine so that you just look at whatever it is you want to look, because the X-ray machine looks deeper. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, this could go in a different direction, but okay. Fiery Red says, yay, Aseto's back. Good morning, Team Spice. Karibu sana. Aseto umetulete nini kutoka Belem, Brazil?
Please tell them.
Usiseme umeleta Proverbs too.
Please tell them.
Sasa yo ameleta tumesha kula. Sasa sijui.
Bas.
Oh, yours is still remaining.
Mine is still alive.
Okay, yeah, I have another one. You see, now this is just me being selfish. It could happen. Don't worry.
Yes.
He didn't come back empty-handed. But his mother raised him right. He was not brought up by wolves. So we'll eat on your behalf. He said it's for everyone. But now that we can't give all of you, we'll tell you how it tastes. Abi?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a combination of white and dark chocolate. So,
the perfect nexus, isn't it? Emily Osena says, good morning. Karibu sana. Always good to see people who don't comment all the time, then getting into the room every now and then. Mbona kuko na giza jamani? Kuko na shida gani? Giza wapi? Is it just me? Are the lights on?
Yes.
Okay. Sounds G. Michael Olande says, good morning, Team Spice. Dr. Venfic is tuned in this morning and says, good morning from Tudor. Cyrus Yegon says, good morning, Spice. I love your voices, I swear. Where Asante Sana. Thank you so much. Aaron Rashid says, good morning, Spice family. We missed you, Aseto. Welcome back.
Asante.
Sindio?
Asante sana.
Welcome back, Aseto, says Christopher. Rogore says, tuned in from Maseno. Atieno, good morning, mes amis. Okay, did you mean to spell it like that? Because I don't know if I should say it on air. A blessed day. Atieno, good morning to you. Jennifer Ateni says, good morning, guys. Ayende Derek is tuned in and says, Nakuru is cool. I can imagine that it is. Petersburgh in the UK is where Nelson Mungai is tuning in from and says, good morning. Abdullah Hussein says, good morning, tuning from Garissa. I love that people are tuning from all different parts and corners of the world. Karibu. Calvin Kemboy is tuning in this morning, watching live from Manchester. And Siuma says, good morning, tuning from Kanairo. Let's uphold the values enshrined in our constitution. Good one, yeah. You are doing a tremendous work, says Solomon Conchella. Thank you so much. And good morning to you. Good morning, Team Spice, tuning from Juba in South Sudan. Wangi Juma is also tuned in this morning and says, how are you this blessed Tuesday? We are fine. He says to the UDA government, God's mercy anew every morning. We have flowers at one time. Okay, that's for sure. Izaki says, good morning, Team Spice, tuned in from Somalia, waiting for the Bold newspaper. We are bringing it. Usijali. Good morning, TSR family. Aseto, while you were away, we were given sweets by our governor. Where? Hand on head. Because what? If you want to know how somebody, you see the way you brought a gift for us, and sasa because umerudi umetuletea kitu. Sasa the people in Mbeere North, they are being told, sasa tumeona the way in which we can show you that we care about you ni kukupatia sweetie ndio kuja utuvotia. Sweetie.
Yeah, sweetie.
Yeah.
One would expect that a governor would actually put up a factory that manufactures sweets.
Maybe. You know,
employment, you know. Yeah.
Or maybe the sweets that she was giving are symbolic for such things to come in the future. Do you understand?
Madhuiti na
Madhuiti na kuja. I heard somebody else was giving mandazi somewhere, but hey.
Yeah, the cost of a vote has been revised and sweetened. So the governor is just acting right.
I see what you did.
Well done, Joe. Hey, okay. Let's get through this quickly, can we? Amesema Aseto ni kichwa ngumu sababu hataki kushikwa kwa nini tafadhali.
Few people are allowed to touch me like that. That would be my wife, my mother, and my doctor.
You're sticking to this thing, eh?
Yes.
Okay. I said no. And my doctor. Gosh, it must have been quite invasive.
Yeah.
Thomas Osoro says, good morning. Good to see you guys. Good morning, Karibu Sana. Gekota says, good morning, Princess Ndu. Yes. Dennis, EVE, Joe. It's a shame that the government is using security personnel during a mini election. Watching from Miami. I'm telling you, this by-election is a general election. Good morning from Machakos. Wambua, good morning. Karibu sana Aseto. Thank you guys. Asante sana Alfred for tuning in. We should thank you. Good to see you guys. Calvin Omondi, good morning Team Spice. Waiting for the Bold newspaper. Na inakuja na moto kama mandazi. Sindio? All right. Let's go to the Bold newspaper and look into the news. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in this morning, as you do every day. Always lovely to have you in the room getting into these conversations. All right. Kenya's Bold newspaper, The Standard. The headline on The Standard today, partisan IEBC. And there is a picture of the IEBC chairperson, Erastus Ethekon. There's his picture. If you didn't know what he looked like, you can get a picture, you can get a copy of The Standard today. And you can have that. Yeah. The headline reads firstly. The reconstitution of the IEBC was meant to redeem an electoral agency long tainted by state interference and timid leadership. But days before by-election seen as a dress rehearsal for the 2027 general election, the commission is already struggling to shake off doubts that dogged its formation. It cleared a UDA candidate despite EACC advice. Some officials have been accused of bias, and the opposition is warning of state-sponsored violence and poll manipulation. Can Chairperson Ethekon calm the swirling storm? You must ask. And there's, of course, a headline that was done before. There is as your insert. This story was carried on the 6th of June on The Standard. Godfathers have it in terms of who chose whom when it came to the selection of the commissioners of the IEBC. So it's up to you to put the pieces together. Looking into other headlines today, because we're going to, of course, look into that a little bit more. Ruto's 5 trillion shilling infrastructure projects raise questions over transparency. Oh, by the way, Aseto, they said that they're going to do more infrastructure projects, and it's going to come to a cost of 5 trillion shillings, but they're not going to borrow the money, neither are they going to raise taxes.
Okay.
So it's possible that somebody's going to rub a bottle somewhere and a genie's going to pop out of it with 5 trillion shillings. Or, you know how the genie comes out of the thing and then they say, I grant you 5 wishes or 3 wishes. So I think it's the stuff of the genies. I don't know where the money's going to come from, but it's not going to come from taxes, so you've got nothing to worry about. And they're not going to borrow anymore because, that's so 2023.
How exactly does a government raise money if not through taxes?
Sijui, but this one...
And not borrowing.
This headline says that now those questions that you're asking are raising questions over transparency in terms of where the money would come from. So
he talks of privatization. So he's going to dispose of our assets, which we paid and bought through our taxes. And then he talks of PP and P.
Yeah, 3 P.
3 Ps.
Triple P.
Yeah, and you see, constitutionally speaking, the government has no right to dispose our assets and use that money as they wish, because that is taxpayers' money. It's still our tax.
Yes.
KPC, any other parastatal is ours. So that money should go to the consolidated fund, and then it goes through the budget, then it is allocated. So he cannot independently claim, I'm going to sell KMC, KPC, whichever it is, and then build you a road. No,
and we're going to do this with Uganda.
It doesn't work like we're
going to do it with Uganda so that Uganda will state that they will stop stealing the Indian Ocean. I mean, for crying out loud. It's not monopoly.
Stay woke, Kenyans. Stay woke. It's our money.
Yeah. So, other headlines. Remember that there was a rally driver that passed on in his home about 2 years ago now, and that it was said that his girlfriend at the time was going to be charged with his murder. Well, the court examined crucial evidence in Maxine trial. Rally driver Maxine Wahome in the docks over the death of her boyfriend and fellow rally driver mechanic Asad Khan. So that continues. We'll look into that. Folks in ACK Kapenguria are fighting. Why? My friend Dennis Okari always says, if you see people are fighting, follow the money.
It's ironical that church disputes have to be intervened with a court order.
Can you imagine?
It's ironic.
One will just hope that you just pray about it. Milango gereza inafunguka.
I think the church, in my opinion, I stand not to be corrected, has lost its its position in the society. The moral high ground that we regarded the church with continues to decline.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's just the truth. There's a story about folks who are up in arms over Russian recruitment of the Putin decree to recruit foreign fighters. Kenya's paying a heavy price for that. In July 2025, Putin signed a decree allowing foreigners to serve during mobilization. What the decree did not specify was how the foreigners would be recruited. So that story is covered on page 4. We can look into that into details. You could be here applying for a job. In Europe, in Eastern Europe, and you're told that it's a security job. It's good pay. You take the job. Next thing,
in the front
you show up and you're given a uniform and a baklava, and you're going on for the thing. Makongeni residents fight back against abrupt violent evictions. Guys, Sunday night was very, very sad to witness. And anybody with, not the full, even half, quarter of a brain. Anybody with a quarter of a brain would want to imagine that these folks are being kicked out of their houses with their children and their belongings in the evening on Sunday. Where do you expect them to go? The irony of it is that they're being moved so that you can put up affordable housing units.
But this also comes behind the premises that during the campaign period, there's one statement that was made. During our administration, you will never see Kenyans being abducted or rejected as we see today. We forget so easily,
But I'm glad they found some relief. That the eviction has been stopped. But as Dennis says, a lot was promised that there should be no eviction during the night or during the day. If it happens, you'll be moved with dignity to be structured. But here we are.
Indeed,
Yeah.
indeed.
Yeah.
IBC on the spot for clearing UDA candidate. That was despite a corruption probe. It wouldn't be the first time that we've also asked questions and wondered, excuse me, you people said that the bare minimum is a college, university degree. You've said that you must not have any cases of whatever. We've seen people run with those tainted things, dimples notwithstanding. And they still got into those positions. So, make your stand and stick to it. Makarini, ODM on edge as opposition gets boost. We did see also on the other side of things that Homa Bay town MP, Peter Kaluma, was quite upset yesterday.
Yeah.
He said, come on, guys, we're in broad-based government. You can't be supporting...
Why is it broad-basing?
What? Surely. Doesn't look too good on that front. So campaigning is over. They cannot campaign anymore as of yesterday. That was the last day. And so today is everybody preparing, brushing up the thing, and then tomorrow they go to the polls. That's kind of what it looks like. Over to you, sir.
Daily Nation. The poison in our food. What exactly are we talking about? The European Union continues to export pesticides it has banned from use within its own borders to African nations, with Kenya being a destination for more than 400 tons of the deadly cancer-causing chemicals. A report by a Swiss-based organization reveals. So they've banned it not to be used in their countries, but they still export to. One would hope that blood is still red, whether in Europe or in Africa, and death is the same, and cancer is the same. So it doesn't make sense to ship it. But here we are. What are our governments then doing about it? But what are we talking about? Now, we have clodane insecticide, 2,4,5-T herbicide. These are just the number of the pesticides that are being shipped into the country, and some have been withdrawn from the Republic as well. Now, development, and here is about first world ambition on track. Malaysian Prime Minister together with President William Ruto at State House. And President William Ruto's push to steer Kenya towards first world status has received backing from visiting Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, who said the goal is achievable. The man spoke highly of affordable housing that Kenya is undertaking. But even as we talk about affordable housing, we were promised 230,000 units annually. That means by now we should be having almost 1 million.
Yeah, so
units.
The million that you have is 1,600.
600.
Yeah, that's 1 million.
Yes.
And if you look at the numbers and the amount they have collected, you'd be amazed.
Yeah.
Because they're in billions, but the projects that are running, whatever phase they are in, they don't even amount to 25% of the money collected. That's why they have enough to invest in bonds, which is also illegal. Criminality is at another level.
All eyes now on IEBC as campaigns wind up. 181 candidates square off. Campaigns for Thursday's by-elections marked by widespread political tensions, violence and fierce rivalry officially concluded yesterday, 48 hours before polling stations opened.
It's interesting that you said that there are how many? 80 what?
Yeah,
there are
181 candidates.
181 candidates, and you would think there were 6.
It's the same thing that happened across the borders. How many candidates did we have?
16.
16. How many did you know? Only one.
Right.
Man who lost home in Mukuru caught up in Makongeni evictions. So, there's that as well. So just highlighting as well what is happening in Makongeni. Many who come from that area call it Okongo.
Okay.
And TSC announces 9,000 vacancies to replace retired and dead teachers. So the Teacher Service Commission has advertised 9,159 positions as it seeks to replace teachers who exited service through natural attrition. Now, case against TSC boss hiring to go to full trial as well. And we also have importing death. EU continues to make and sell banned pesticides. That's a story that we've just highlighted earlier, and the story of Malaysian Prime Minister saying Kenya on track to join First World, and no end in sight to Uhuru Gachagwa's political feud. Former DP has taken on Kenyatta's party for fielding candidate in Narok MCA race. So Gachagua is having a problem with the Jubilee fielding a candidate in Narok.
Why?
But these are different political parties.
Why?
So what's the problem?
Yeah.
See, may the best candidate win.
Exactly.
Enda uza sera. Kama yako haitoshi mboga.
Where watu wa Belem mmekuja na fujo?
Let me tell you, I was in the middle of fire in Belém. So please, I'm alive. Let me speak. Kamanya, what do you have?
Well, today we have the star, and the star is shining. Huh? The front page reads, mounting accusations, cases threaten to derail preparations. This is regarding the IBC, new battles, which are inside, and they say there is an attempt to abolish National Tallying Center. You know, Kia Mtota, the senator, the presidential aspirant, has moved to court, saying that the IBC has been overreaching. Indeed, the Constitution clearly says that the chair is a mere returning officer for the presidential results. They should not do tallying, they should just say this is what we have. Yes. Everything happens at the constituency. So Mtata, I think
he's right, isn't he?
Yeah, he's
right.
Yeah, he's in line with the constitution, and that's how it should be. So this whole thing of bombers has just been a mere show that they put up. Unfortunately, if it played out well, no one would have a problem. That story continues on page 4 and 5 of the Star. Page 2. Do you know the size and the distance between your belly button from your chest? It's interesting. That is seen to be a sign of beauty.
Excuse me?
Yeah, page 2, I'm just starting what the Star is saying.
From your where?
From your chest to your belly.
So where does my chest start?
That's a good question.
Well, the lower
your
chest.
chin.
Well, they're saying it's a sign of beauty, depending.
If it's long,
So,
it's nice.
so am I only supposed to go with the tape measure?
Yes, they have measurements that indicate
Oh, okay.
the appreciated standard of showcasing the signs of beauty. Anyway,
Okay.
surgeons are on it, and they're saying why Kenyan bellies defy global beauty standards. It's the Star,
Continue.
page 2. It reads and says, do you regard your belly button, also called the navel, as an attractive part of your anatomy? Most people do not, but plastic surgeons do. They use something called the golden ratio, a number around 1.62, believed for years to represent perfect natural proportions.
Yeah, I actually know that people actually go and get their belly button, like looked a certain way.
Yeah.
And that if you have an innie or an outie, a lot of people... Never mind, please continue.
So cosmetic surgeons
I'll
have
tell you
a
later.
lot to say about that.
Okay.
Page 3 of the Star says that the rights defenders to learn skills of modern activism. You see, we are living in changing times, and how we've been interacting as a society, as humans of this globe, things keep changing. So today, grassroots rights campaigners are set to converge at a city hotel for a 3-day human rights academy from today to empower them on modern human rights work. Mounted by Defenders Coalition, this year's academy is the 10th edition of the training, which is a nationally recognized platform dedicated to strengthening the safety, resilience, and effectiveness of human rights defenders across Kenya. I think it is important for them to just learn how best to continue engaging and advocating for human rights, because we do need to stand up. And you realize some of the archaic ways we've been doing it. Nowadays, people don't come out with twigs. People will tweet. People will mobilize online. So,
I saw the same thing happened at COP30, because it is in 3 years, activists were actually allowed to be part of the process. But with them, they were armed with very intelligent individuals who sat in those plenaries to push the agenda. So you find on the final text, the civil society had their say as well.
Right,
so just
right.
looking at how our civil society groups and pressure groups as well will be empowered, not just to appear on streets, but to appear in these spaces and on these tables.
Assume the platforms where the voice can mean something and be developed into an actionable plan. Then we have a caricature. Some lights went on and someone was found gagging people. That is still on page 3 of the Star. I don't know, but that looks like Mama Jirani, according to the flag. Well, the cartoons are very expressive.
True, they really are.
Page 4 says new battles, IBC new battles. The inside attempt to do away with the National Tallying Center. That's what front page was talking about. And I think Kenyans need to pay attention to that, because elections mean everything, as we all know. They determine, they can put us plunge us into chaos or plunge us into peaceful transition. Maybe lastly, we have page 6 on the Star. Opposition unity put to test as Ruto spies blamed for division.
Yeah.
I think now people are trying to align. So the united opposition is battling fresh turmoil after senior figures within the coalition openly traded accusations of infiltration, each party claiming the other is harboring President William Ruto's political spies. What began as murmurs escalated into a full-blown blame game last week when DCP Deputy Party Leader Cleophas Malala publicly accused senior members of DAP Kenya of acting as moles dispatched to destabilize the fragile coalition from within.
The coalition is fragile.
Well, it is
I did not know.
Didn't you? Well, finally, on page 8, Kenyans are ready to pay taxes, but wastage is a concern. One Grace Mogo was quoted saying, "I don't refuse to pay taxes, but what are we paying for? Schools are struggling, clinics have no medicine, garbage stays 2 weeks before collection. You feel like the money disappears somewhere else."
It's a big deal. You should then be able to see a direct correlation between what you're taxed for and then what is done in the country. There are places on this planet where that actually happens, that you can actually draw a line between what you've been taxed and what you see around you. It's the way it should be. I don't know.
It's tangible.
Taking a guess that perhaps you want to do that. The front page of the Business Daily talks about how banks are squeezing savers to grow lending margins by 24 billion shillings. The World Bank, of course, sticking their neck out to be that cousin who nobody asked their opinion about. Sorry, did I say what I think? Weak competition in key sectors stifling job growth is what they're saying. You need to have competition in some sectors so that, more people are then on the job grid. I agree with that, but, one would ask the question.
Monopoly.
So monopolies are not the language that the World Bank likes to speak. You want more people in the game so that you have more people who work, but at the end of the day, it's so that you can tax more people so you can pay your loans. Just don't think that the World Bank is giving free advice. That's it. They're not going to come and tell you, you know what, you guys have competition within your sectors so that you can have more people on the job grid. Nah, it's so that at the end of the day, you can collect more money through which you can pay them. Sorry. And plus, they're not giving you this advice if you don't owe them money. Sawa, let's just get that right.
Yeah, they're securing their own interests.
Absolutely. Come on. Can we look into the story real quick? Because I know we'll be discussing it into 7. IEBC's Ethicon under fire as poll tension escalates for the election. This by-election is not just this by-election. This by-election is essentially the dress rehearsal for the 2027 election. That a lot of things that happen tomorrow... What's today? Thursday. Sorry. A lot of things that happen on Thursday are then going to give you a view into how things will be in the next year and a half when you go to the polls for the general election. That and many people know that the political future rides on how people will make a decision on Thursday. And so from that, there are people who are waiting to see because they want to stamp their authority. There are people who are waiting to see because then they want to chart their course after that and see which direction that they will go in. Or there are people who will say, okay, well, I'm doomed or I'm done. Which way am I going to go based on how this is all going to happen? It's also a dress rehearsal for IEBC. Remember that this is the brand new IEBC, put together in June. But Ethicon is already under fire. They're saying that poll tensions are escalating. And you have one, Justin Muturi, who's the former Attorney General, who said, as far as the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission is concerned, I think it is at the beck and call of the government. It is a toothless bulldog, even though the law is there giving it teeth. The law has told it what it can do, but it's not doing it because it's at the beck and call of the powers that be, essentially, is what Justin Muturi is saying here. And they're saying that, we saw them trying to show some might by charging 2 candidates in Kasipul, $1 million shillings each. And it was like a slap on the wrist. They said, okay, but you guys behave yourselves, but just don't. And that, an IEBC with teeth that they were willing to use would have done a little bit more. According to Gachagua, he said, and I quote, "It is within my knowledge that the IEBC has a deliberate policy not to deploy commissions or officers from the regions where they come from in the event of an election or by-election. I am aware that your vice chairperson has assumed the role of managing Magarini by-elections. You are well aware that the commissioner assigned to the coast region is Dr. Lutalala Mukwana." So they said you should not put people from the area as returning officers because they're biased. So there are many things that come out, and I would urge you to get a copy of the Standard and have a look at this story, because they talk about things like armed goons. They say that there should be proper penalties. You shouldn't allow people to just behave the way they want. So as far as they're concerned, IEBC is compromised. So we see what we said, that everybody's figuring out what this will do for them in 2027, but then also opinions already being formed about the IEBC.
I'm also keen to see how the voter will behave, because again, remember, we are at a very unique space where we are saying people are tired of this regime, people want change, people want to vote differently come 2027. Now, those who are participating in the by-elections have an early chance to show and exhibit their anger and their need for change that they want to manifest. So that is one thing I want to see how it plays out. And also, I think, we claim that people mobilize goons and violence during election, but it just doesn't happen. It is the locals who are mobilized to behave in a specific and certain way, and they are paid. So it is upon them to decide, are we going to be violent? Are we going to be used? Are we going to be peaceful? Because these people who have come into your area to mobilize for the candidates, they are there for a different cause. They are not there for your interest. They were not there before the campaign, and they will not be there after the 27. So let's see the Bereno, the Kariobangi, and all the 23 other places. Let's see how they behave.
I think it's really important because you look at IEBC and the powers that they have right now, especially in Kasipul, If you look at the situation in Kasipul even before, it has been dogged with violence all through, So could IEBC then make the tough decision and decide to disqualify both individuals? Because remember, 3 people have died.
Right.
What else do you need for you to say, guys, enough is enough? You guys would not run for elections, because so far, based on information that we have, you have imported violence to the people of Kasipul. But like you said, these also speaks a lot about people and Kenyans during electioneering period. The behavior in Kasipul, you'll not tell me it's someone from Nairobi who went to Kasipul to cause all this chaos.
No.
It is the people in Kasipul who are behaving the way they are. And we have to call Kenyans out as well for misbehaving during electioneering period and allowing themselves to be used by politicians. Remember, once these people get to Nairobi,
they forget about you, my friend.
They forget about you. And you go back to bury your own and deal with your problems. If Kenyans do not change and see the need of participating in elections in a free and fair and respectable manner, then we are pretty much not moving anywhere. Like you're saying, if Kenyans are angry, let's see how they will vote during this time.
Take it out on the ballot box. Take out your anger on the ballot box, not on each other. How's that for a quote that we can pin up somewhere? If you're angry about the way things are happening, take it out on the ballot box and don't take it out on your fellow Kenyan. All right, that's of course many more stories to be looked into, form the basis for our conversations as we get into it this morning, and we will then have this conversation moving in towards this time, and it's 7 a.m. Good morning.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Lau Obaga. Nairobi City County is grappling with the 86 billion in outstanding bills left by previous administrations. Appearing before the Senate Committee on Devolution, Governor Johnson Sakaja noted that City Hall inherited 118 billion in pending bills. in pending bills when he assumed office in 2022. Sakaja said that the debt includes the 16 billion shillings left by the now defunct Nairobi Metropolitan Services. He also defended his administration's decision to move hospital deposit amounts to Cedian Bank, saying the move was informed by financial issues. This event comes... Is there a problem? My apologies for that. And moving on is that President Ruto's promise to northern Kenyans has actualized as the famous Isiolo Mandera construction has begun in some sections of Mandera County. According to Senator Ali Roba, the roads have begun between Kotulo and Elwak and also Elwak Gari. He wants the government to facilitate Mandera Ramo section as soon as possible. As the Mandera leadership wants President Ruto to intervene in the ravaging drought in the county. While speaking during the upgrading event at Kutolo, they said that if the situation is not addressed on time, it may lead to death of not only people but also livestock. Now, the Kenya National Education Council has announced the death of an examiner at the KJSEA Marking Center. According to the CEO, David Njeri, he said that the examiner by the name Nicholas Mutuku passed away at Machakos Girls High School. Until his demise, Mutuku was a dedicated teacher at Nduluni Junior School in Makindu Sub-County, Makueni County, before the transition to the competency-based education. He served as an examiner with the Kenya National Examinations Council of the now defunct Kenya Certificate of Primary Education examination for many years. He was an experienced, diligent teacher, and the CEO says that they have lost a gem. Now, as campaigns came to an end yesterday ahead of the by-elections set for Thursday in Western Kenya, Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya led the campaign for Malava parliamentary candidate in Kakamega County on the DAP ticket. Seth Panyako Natembeya used the opportunity to strongly criticize National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula and Prime Minister Cabinet Minister Musalia Mudavadi for engaging in politics while they are public servants. This comes as Musalia led the campaign for UDA candidate David Ndakwa in Malava constituency. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
We look at the utterances of leaders who are aligned to broad-based, who were initially in ODM. We thought they stand for something. Now they've been exposed.
Because we are a third world country, we are poor. And not because we don't have resources, but we have been robbed senseless.
Look at the wasteful expenditure. Look at how large government lives. And we've said this is something that can be controlled. It happens in many other countries.
Internally, we used to stand and tell him, boss, hii kitu ni mbaya. And you'd say, now he doesn't let me tell you, you saw the other parliamentary group meeting. People went there, sat, listened, looked at him. There was no plenary, left.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, stagi kuongea. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we may find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 9 minutes after 7 o'clock and into the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Tuesday, the 25th of November. Dennis Aseto, Okoh, and Joe Kamanya with you this morning as we get into these conversations. Good to have you in the room as we do. Our live streams are up on YouTube, Facebook, and on X, and our audience on KTN. And everybody who's listening, as you go about your business, go about your day, get ready for things that are happening. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We'll comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable in our conversations as we do and get this discourse front and center where it should be. All right, a by-election is happening on Thursday. And it's a by-election, but there are 24 elections happening in this by-election, and there are 181 candidates in this. And like we said earlier, it would appear as though there were just 10 or 11. Yes. But there are 181 of them. And so folks who are contesting. But we're not just contesting for position here. Kenya is also clawing to look at what the politics are going to look like come 2027. That's the conversation that we're having this hour. And we are joined by Dr. Harun Isaac Hassan, who's a governance expert. He joins us this morning as we talk the by-elections final leg, a reflection through to 2027. Good morning, Dr. Hassan.
Good morning to you. How are you?
Very well, thank you
very much.
Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Thank you.
Let's look into some of these things this morning. But before we do, we'd like to welcome you with today's proverb. Dennis will share that. We'd love to hear your interpretation.
Proverb today is local. comes from a person who's regarded as the enigma of Kenyan politics, Raila Odinga. And this was a statement that he made, and don't be afraid of dying. Even if you die and go to hell, there's nothing to worry about, because you'll find many of your friends there. How would you interpret that? What do you think Raila Odinga meant?
Thank you very much. The proverb basically can be interpreted in two perspectives. The religious aspect of it, and of course the natural phenomena of our existence. Because one, he has given hope that indeed we shouldn't be dwelling a lot on fear from death. And therefore, death is a natural thing, and it will always come, and people should always prepare it. And one thing that we do not know is that when death occurs, the person who dies do not actually know that he has died. As a medic, I mean, that's what happens. Yeah. And the other aspect is the aspect of religiosity. What you have done for yourself in this world, according to your beliefs, is the one which takes or determines your destiny. And determination of your destiny is either two. Either you go to hell or you go to heaven. And based on how you have weighed your books, you know, they are the books that you build up from the day you start your life until the day of your demise. Meaning then, the hope is that if you have been a good person, then of course you will go to heaven. If you have been a bad person, according to the scripts, you will go to hell. Again, you are not the only one. Everybody carries his own cross, as they always say it. And therefore, I think the perspective of the proverb is that we should be prepared for the future as well.
Yeah. Indeed, we should. Well, to be prepared for the future seems like something that everybody's doing in Kenya at the moment. There's a by-election coming up on Thursday. And we see this because certain things have happened. That through the different positions, whether they be senatorial, member of parliament, or MCA, this cuts across those three sections. I think those are the only three that we're dealing with in these 24 elections. That there were folks who then vacated those positions due to natural attrition. There were those who were promoted to cabinet secretaries. And so that left positions of member of parliament in different areas then vacant. And according to the constitution, then we must have a by-election. It should have been 90 days after those positions were declared vacant, according to the constitution, but we're looking at a year plus for a lot of them. Many things happened in between. There was no IEBC per se, and there needed to be an establishment of a new IEBC. But many are looking at this and they're saying that this is a dress rehearsal for 2027. Dr. Hassan, would you agree?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with them. The reason being is that first and foremost, we went into a period of unconstitutionality or constitutional crisis. That is, if the constitution says seats must be vacant within seats, once they become vacant, must be filled within 3 months. So, we didn't do that, and others stayed almost 1.5 years or 2 years. That's already constitutionally not right. Secondly, the current by-election some of the opposition came as a result of rearrangement of the government. And therefore, meaning then, the rearrangement was based on the fact that if we pick this from here and place him in a cabinet position, then we will be in a position to secure the seat again for the government. So it was a way of broadening their way of having more people in the loyalty of the government. And therefore, the bottom line is that at the moment now, for the elections, there is the battle for supremacy that is going on, both from individuals, particularly the former deputy president, who has been ousted out of the office by the current government. Secondly, is the supremacy for those who have their position has been replaced. I mean, they have been picked from their position and they were to replace it. And of course, they should replace that particular position with their loyalties. Therefore, the concept of the current by-election is not about actually the by-election on bringing leaders on board. It's about who is who in that political field. Secondly, is the 2027, what we call it, definition of who is holding the ground. So the 2027 politics dominates significantly in the current by-election and determine who actually holds the grassroots voters. That could be also another dominant thing. But again, the third one, which I will probably need to mention, is the fact that if the current government or the office, the ruling party does not secure seats within the areas, like, for example, Mbere, North, Kasipul, which they have placed ODM candidate there, which is assumed to be part of the government at the moment on the broad-based arrangement. Where do we call the Western Malaba seat? It will going to tint part of the leaders' reputations and, of course, their ability to hold the ground. For example, in the Western, the speaker will have a lot of issues if he loses that seat.
Why?
The reason being...
His position is not political. His position is governmental.
Okay, I totally agree with you. That is on the scripts. But in Kenya, all positions are political. Where did you find a speaker of the National Assembly standing in a political party podium speaking for the government when he is supposed to be the one checking that particular government?
Because we don't follow the constitution.
That is the point. And therefore, we will come to how do some of the things are being, accepted to just happen, and how some realities are on the ground. The reality in the ground is that the position for national speakers has become also one of the political grounds for the political field for any other politician. And therefore, that is why it matters. If he loses the grip of the Western political influence, then of course he may also be having issues whether he will get back his seat as a speaker or not.
Dr. I want to look at it in terms of the by-elections that do exist right now and the powers that do play right now. And I look at it from a different perspective, in the sense that as we speak right now, it is all about political expediency. It is all about we have to retain power. It is not about having the best candidate who will come in to serve for Kenyans. So the current by-elections that do exist is, one would say, it is a training ground for 2027. It is not about Banisa, who've not had a member of parliament for 1 year and there's a lot that needs to be done. It's about we are the ones that matter today, and 2027 is our goal, right?
That is absolutely right. I mean, one important thing that we need to register is the fact that it's about the political party. One is from the opposition, who are trying to see whether they are able to have influence on the grassroots level. The other one is the supremacy of the ruling party, to show that we are now currently ruling. Therefore, when you look at even our parliamentarians, I don't think if we have such quality leadership that we are looking for in our the quality of our leaders. And you realize that most of them have come in through such a certain political bargaining process. And sometimes you will be disappointed the fact that you bring in someone whom you have been forced to bring him on board as a representative and represents you in a weird way. For example, I mean, where on earth do you find over 390 or 400 members of parliament debating on financial act, and then the president just says, no, I think you guys have done the wrong thing? Who are the ones who are representing us then? If them themselves could not say, no, this is not right, Mr. President, we are not approving it. So there are quite a number of significant histories that we know very well prove that the leaders we take to parliament are not legitimate leaders, credible leaders, and people who have the people where they represent at heart. So it's all about politics.
Well, Daktari, just, one would think that an election in Kenya by now ought to be an activity of the people, the constituents of that ward, of that constituency, where they come together and analyze the people who are interested in serving them, and they decide based on these qualities of leadership that we as a community uphold, this is the right person we think ought to go and represent us. Because as you rightly say, when you go to the national or the county assembly, you are representative of that specific constituency you're coming from. But that's not what we are reflecting now, because you see, even the president himself got involved in this negotiated democracy, especially in the case of Baringo. And we've seen mobilization of
and Banisa
as well. And we've seen mobilization of a government machinery toward this, especially Berenol and Kasipu and other places. But what is alarming is that where we have seen that heavy presence of the government specifically, because I believe the opposition is the people. These are the people who call themselves the opposition, are just jilted lovers, if you ask me. It's a coalition of the rejected. Where we have seen heavy presence of them, it has been marked by violence. And I speak this because I've compared Mbeere North, Narok recently, with Kariobangi. In Kariobangi, we've not had instances of reported violence because we've not held any heavy presence by the government or those whom you're referring to as the opposition. So what is to be made of that?
I think one crucial thing is that where matters of violence occurs, there is always incitement from either parties. And the issue is, how do we gain the momentum of securing that seat is the question that comes. And the people who are used are generally the public. And these are grouped either this other side or the other side. But the incitement comes from either the government officials who have been given that mandate to go and oversee that election, or who think that if that seat is lost, there will be an implication for them. That's one. Secondly, the issue of who becomes what in the by-election is not actually the point that at the moment is in the domain of the ruling wings. It's about whom do we want to place there? How do we stamp our authority on the ground to show that we are indeed the people who are in control of that particular area? And when you look at it very keenly, the public have no control over it. And the legitimacy of the whole process now is already in question before we get to even the real day of the voting. And one of the things that recently I documented on the newspapers, I sometimes put some opinions on the newspaper, is the fact that we never give a chance to the public. We call it democratic process, but is really our elections a democratic process? It's a question that one will always ask. And when you look at it and reflect on it very keenly, you realize that we do not have actually legitimate democratic process in any of our elections.
What makes the legitimacy of this process then be questioned?
Yes, the question is, what makes it is that we must have a transparent process, non-involvement of the leadership of the present powers. Thirdly, the will of the people being respected. Where did you find the will of people being respected? There are also a lot of government machineries that are being used, which actually makes it more illegitimate.
Like what? For example, Deputy President, we can say it, Deputy President Kithure Kindiki has been in Mbeere North for the last 60 years. We have seen the Embu County Governor, Cecil Mbarire, out on the campaigns. We've seen CS Geoffrey Roku also there. We can't really count Rigathi Gachagua because he's not in leadership.
No, he isn't.
We've also seen the Speaker of the National Assembly out in Western Kenya campaigning quite overtly. We have seen Mombasa Governor, we've seen Homa Bay Governor, we've seen Kilifi Governor.
Yes.
We've seen across board, we've seen everybody throw their support in one way or another. Are we saying that this action by these individuals compromises the integrity of the process because they're already in a particular position?
There are two issues in terms of their action and the implication of the Constitution. Ideally, because of separation of powers, speakers of national assemblies are not supposed to be in political
constitutionally.
Constitutionally, yes. So that one we keep it there. Public service demands that any public officer should not be engaged in politics, particularly political campaigns and all other things. And therefore, constitutionally, again, those ones are bad. And of course, the deputy president and the president and the governors are slightly exempted from that process because their seat is politically, it's a political seat or a process that by constitution they are not very much, the term is not dictated to them which bars them away from politics. But again, because of their power, there's what is called the power of influence and the power of intimidation. These are the two things that people look at. Are they intimidating people? Are they enticing people? Because there are quite a number of goodies that they talk about which has not been happening before. And that is not in the national budget, or it is not in the government plan. And someone just goes there and say we will do this, we will do this, and yet it is not from the usual system of governance and the usual system of resource allocation within the country. So the illegitimacy comes from the fact that they are not supposed to be there. Two, they are in power and therefore they will be intimidating voters, and they also entice voters, because if you are told this is what we will do for you, and I know very well it is unlikely for them to do that, that itself compromises the whole process and the legitimacy of the whole process occurs. And
when all these things happen, we have the body that is there to ensure that everything on these elections actually do follow the law. And there is a process where when you look at the government getting out there campaigning for an individual against the law, one would hope that IEBC would rein in on that candidate and be able to speak to them, because the law stops cabinet secretaries who are not politicians, one would say, quote unquote. But we see an IEBC that is quiet. We look at violence that is happening in various areas of the country, and one would hope that IEBC would rein in with the power that they have to ensure that these cases are no longer seen. But IEBC is seemingly quiet. And as we sit today, one asks the question, is IEBC compromised? Is IEBC a toothless dog? Or do they just not want to work?
It is not actually IEBC alone. I will get to IEBC. When it comes to issues of conflict, there are constitutional officers that are mandated to look into people who are crossing the red line. For example, you hear Wetangula threatening the what is his name?
Governor
Natembeya. You had the deputy president,
the Kuvongo.
Yes. So there are constitutional officers that are mandated to summon these people. But will they do that? Are they actually independent? That comes to the cohesion and
NCIC.
Yes, NCIC, National Cohesion and
Integration
Commission. We have not had anything from them. That's one challenge. The fact that the people who have spoken are people who are in power and they are leaders in this country, seems they have all their way to do anything they want. Come to IEBC. The word I is irrelevant. It is irrelevant.
It is not independent.
It is not independent.
Irrelevant.
And therefore, there is no need, and I repeatedly said in many conversations that the word IEBC is the word I is just trying to tell each other something that is not of any value. You say IEBC and yet it is not independent. The independence is the fact that they rely on wholly the exchequer's money. I mean, they have no clear, they must be allocated money or they can be denied, number one. Number two, their appointment process. You know, I mean, if the president decides to appoint you, there's no way that you can go against your employer. So I did not understood at any one time when we are appointing the commissioners, which took a lot of time in bringing them on board, and we thought probably if they are brought on board through a legitimate process, which by virtue of the arrangement they put in place, it looked like legitimate, but I don't think if influence was exceptional out of that particular process. And therefore, IBC is toothless, as you said, simply because, one, they do not have mandate to arrest anyone first. And therefore, they will have to use the existing executive machineries. And now the executive machineries are commanded by the people who have given out that directives, number one. Number two, IBC, the fact that they are very new, they have a lot of caution in taking any action. You remember the Cherera Force. I mean, if someone has otherwise opinion, a different opinion from some few commissioners, they will lose their seat. The fact that Cherera 4 were punished, and I tend to think, lawfully or unlawfully, the process was not called for. Because the fact that the other process of the election has already passed, and these are officers holding constitutional offices, there was no need of punishing them. So my reflection on IBC is that I think the new team are still understanding how to work in the complex political situation from complex political arenas.
How? I'm sorry. They're commissioners on this. They're commissioners on this team.
Yes.
One of the commissioners, for crying out loud, is the former registrar of political parties, very well versed about political issues in the country. They registered political parties for a legal mind, for goodness sake. How can we say that? Okay, well, they're still brand new. They don't know how to carry on. They've lived in Kenya. They've been here. They've seen how things operate. They told panels that they were worth their weight in salt.
And there was a seemingly very exhaustive and deliberate process of screening, assessment, and appointment.
Now,
so that the idea was that we could have competent people who will not come into office and say, I need some time to, understand
get things out.
I need to be cautious because we are led by a constitution. And the Constitution defines how each and every this independent body ought to work. EACC, NCIC, police, everybody, IEBC as well. And once you assume office as a commissioner or otherwise, you have the functions, duties, and responsibilities. We cannot say, I think it would be a lame excuse to say, but that they are more led by their loyalty and commitment to the employer is not the president. The employer is the people of Kenya. They hold what you call the fidelity. They need to be more responsible to the people that they serve.
Is that in writing? I ride on the fact that if we respect the Constitution, in any level of our actions, then we don't have questions over what we are talking about. The issue is Kenya is not scarce of any constitutional rules. Laws are plenty, and sometimes they override each other. Recently, you remember the issue of the National Police Service Commission as well as the National Police Service. The fact that the Inspector General and 2 Deputy Inspector Generals are commissioners of the National Police Service Commission did not even give any click on how they should manage the process. And the commission was behaving separately outside the legal process. So complexity of the dispensation of constitutional mandates comes in when there are quite a number of interference from either the executive or the fact that they remain silent in following the rule of law. For example, let me give you an example of the Mbere UDA party aspirant. And this particular candidate, there's a question of integrity. But when you look at keenly what our constitution says about integrity issues, and whether you are in a position to be elected or you're elected into a political position, is that our constitution puts it areas of, there are quite a number of gray areas in our constitution, whereby once you are once you are sentenced or convicted or prosecuted, and you have, I mean, if it is less than 6 months, that's fine. There's no problem. You are still allowed to contest for your seat. But more than 6 months, and you go and appeal, as long as that appeal stands, there's nothing, according to our constitution, that bars you from joining.
Dr. Are you surprised that that specific fact that the grey area that does exist in law, one would have hoped that members of parliament would have seen that they would have made sure that those who have a dent in their credentials, that is something they would have fixed. But that would never be fixed because they know that they are culprits themselves. That means at the end of the day, in every election that we have, Kenya is likely to always have individuals who are not fit to run for these offices, running for these offices because of that grey area that does exist in law. But people who ought to change it are members of parliament who have these dents themselves in the first place.
Absolutely, you have put it very well. You know, our problem is our parliamentarians, our legislatures. And what is it that they have a problem with? To start with, our 2010 constitution clearly dictates that any member of parliament position must be a degree holder. And do you know that one has been suppressed for three consecutive elections? That they have postponed it, and there is no legislation to guide that they have put in place, with exception of the governor's position. Similarly, anything that links directly to politicians, members of parliament are not interested in legislating those issues and putting records straight. And therefore, our challenge generally overall in enforcing the existing laws is coming from legislatures.
Now,
yes, we are not disputing that, because some of the things that we hear are not very clear in normal practice, is the fact that the 2010 constitution, which was a robust constitution with quite a number of rules that will have guided this nation to the right path, are suppressed because of the interests of politicians. Therefore, politicians who are in parliament, particularly the ones in current political leadership, they will never ever push for anything that they know will going to work against them. And that's why the NGTC, the National Government Constituency Development Fund, has been defined several times as unconstitutional, but it still rules within the corridors of parliament to make sure that it becomes legit.
Now,
so I think it's about how we are, and how patriotic we want to be, and the legacy any politician or any ruling party will want to live in this country.
Let's look at the voter, because at the end of the day, the power belongs to the people, we the people, as the constitution opines clearly. The ballot will be cast on Thursday for these particular by-elections. So we could have a conversation around the suspension of competency from the National Assembly, the violation of our constitution by all the would-be leaders by allowing themselves to participate in these campaigns. But at the end of the day, the decision will be made by that voter who will come out and vote from Banisa, Malava, Kariobangi, Mbere North, and every other place, Narok, and every other place as well. To what extent does the voter now stand to make the final decision independently, having listened, having been given tokens, having been, as you say, pressured by what you'd call this commanding presence of government? To what extent does the voter still hold the final authority of determining how it will be on Thursday?
And does it matter at the end of the day?
It is indeed. And what I will have said in that particular aspect is that first and foremost, the ultimate decision lies with the voter holder, the person who has his voter registration. But if we don't exclude the issue of coercing, intimidations, and of course the fact that our political architecture is in a manner that people go on political or tribal lineage. Our politics is not purely politics. Sometimes we look at issues from the perspective of who is this particular person to me and how do we relate to this particular person. Particularly areas where clanisms dominate, it becomes very difficult for one to decide the right person. What happens is that the clan influence or the where you emerge from influences whom you want to vote for. When the issue of Gen Z started, we thought Kenyans will have a mindset that will not look at any tribal thing, will not look at any relative, but they will look objectively into the person's ability to pick up the mantle of leadership. And that looks like a drama that just happened that particular time, and it has diminished completely because the young people who are being used to cause violence, or the ones who are coming out during the rallies to either applaud someone or suppress the other person's will, are still the young people. They are not old people who actually go there. They just dominate, behind the boardroom discussions. But the people who are on the front line, and we had hope on, are our young people, the Gen Zs. But looks like that will never happen now. Therefore, my thinking is that Kenyans youth are unemployed. They have a lot of issues related to their own and personal needs, and that makes them to depend on handouts. And sometimes they may not decide against what they have agreed to do because of the exchange of handouts. So there are quite a number of individual challenges that people experience when also making a decision on their own voter's card and who to vote for. So again, the hype and the political rallies from people who are respected, so-called respected by the young people in the leadership arena, gives them again a challenge to go against their request or their will. Therefore, the youth have quite a number of pressure that forces them to do what they probably might not have intended to do it.
Dr. I want to look at the situation that we see right now in the by-election. So you've spoken in terms of pressure, coercion, intimidation, right? In a by-election. We've seen violence in a by-election. You've seen the law being broken in a by-election. As we approach 2027, don't you think if we let all these things persist right now, in 2027 we're giving credence to more of these being seen at that point? And therefore there is need for Kenyans, first of all, to think about 2027, think about the future and how to stop the mess right now. The security agencies and every other agency that is in this by-election period to do right, because if we permit the mess to persist right now, 2027 we might find ourselves in a position that is not nice.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. 2027 is something to watch as we look at the by-election at the moment. What is very significant is the fact that those who are breaking the laws are not brought to book. And that will give us a leeway for people to do whatever they want in 2027. Therefore, the lessons learned from this by-election should be reflected on, and then when the election is over, all those people who have crossed the boundaries and refused to maintain and upheld the constitution should be brought to book. Who will do that?
Will they though? And this is the question that I find myself battling with. That do you think that the hundreds and thousands of people over the last 6 months who have been, wined and dined with wherever these resources have come from, do they have a fundamental understanding of what is actually being done to them? Because they are being used for a political process to ensure that a certain individual sits in a position of power, whereby then they don't necessarily do anything to change the life course of this common man. If anything, they do everything to make sure that they remain in that position and that they become more wealthy. That's the truth. Color it whatever you want to color it, but that's just how it is. Are people aware that they are being used as the currency to buy these positions? Because if people are not aware, we're going to be doing this same horse and pony show, rather dog and pony show, for the next I don't know how long. So until there is, and I guess it's a more recent phrase, are people really woke to the reality of what's going on here? Because it's serious. We talk about it as though, people came in and they gave sweets. This is serious. That a sitting governor will give sweets to individuals in a county with the expectation that they will vote in a particular way, which is abhorrent. But then the people who receive these sweets, like what Dennis was saying, the people who allow themselves to be used for violence, the people who accept these sweets and then go to the ballot box and make a decision based on confectionery, there's a problem. But until there's the realization and then say, I'm not going to allow myself to be used in this manner anymore, that's when we're going to see the dial change. Because we can talk about hope and whatever, but it is not going to change, Terry. So long as there's no realization that this is what is actually happening to people, it's not going to change. It'll be a sweet today, it'll be a motorcycle tomorrow at State House, which, by the way, what happened to those? Or it'll be something else. This is the reality of our times. And so we are woke to what is actually happening. There will be no change. It's painful to hear, but that's the truth. How can we change that?
First, I think we have dominance of social media, which we have seen that Kenyans actually understand what is going on. Because one of the highest consumers of social media in Africa is actually Kenya. Yes. And that means then we have a platform that people can be educated on and understand. But is it really lack of understanding and knowledge on what is going on? Or it is just the cultural behaviors of our society whereby they don't care about tomorrow and people look at what they gain now today? Because I realized in 2022 in the political landscape of Mandera County, the former governor just opted to form his own party and come up with his own candidate and use a lot of money to bring on board candidates of his own choice. And of course, people were given handouts and a lot of money, spending over 2 billion on a governor's campaign. Nobody asks where does that money comes from. I think it's all about our people, the society itself, who have developed a don't care attitude. And I think is it because of the pressure of livelihood that has completely diminished, and people have now opted to live on handouts. Because if you go, for example, to one of the counties and you are assumed to be either in a political position or you have once vied for a political position, people will rush and chase you looking for handouts. Why should people look for handouts and yet they know very well that that handout will not take them anywhere and it's not something that will going to last? So the question that we always ask our people is that indeed, if you are given what you can use today, and after 5 years is when again someone will come and start giving you again another handout, how long will you want to stay in such a situation? People will never answer the question. Number two, you realize that people talk about bigger things that sometimes being informed by the politicians. They come to the people and say, we will do A, B, C, D for you. And you know very well, for example, a member of parliament's job is only 3.
Yeah.
Legislative, representation, and oversight. Any other development thing you talk about on the ground and tell people is a lie. And therefore, if you are lying already and you are also buying those lies, then I think it is all about the society, the leadership, and all that surrounds all those other factors.
Well, granted, Dr. that people do understand nowadays the role of the various positions that exist, elective positions more precisely. But that does not shield away people from being hoodwinked, Even the CSAs have come out and said, now is the right time for you guys to have water, because you're just about to vote and you want you to vote a certain way. Now is the right time for us to extend tarmac in your region where you have never had tarmac before, because we want you to vote a certain way. But I am not yet giving up on the voter. I am not yet giving up on us, we, the people, because it will take us to liberate this country. It will take each and every vote to be casted and to mean something for the change to manifest. So we could talk about the problems that exist, and nothing speaks to that our constitution is weak. We are saying our constitution is very supreme and very strong. It's just that the persons we have in these various positions and offices are the ones who choose to suspend or apply the constitution
when they need
when it suits them. So voters do have a few hours, a few days to think, especially this by-election, because this is the closest we are to seeing how the IBC will manage themselves, how the candidates will manage themselves, and how the voters will behave. But I want to perhaps pick your mind on, do you think, because the revolution for change began in 2024, it is on, people just, have been changing tact, but we are hoping to have that expression of the need for change on the ballot, especially this coming up on Thursday. But do you feel that we could have a bit of a reflection of a shift from people being influenced heavily during the campaigns and finally choosing to vote as they should and as they want?
It is our wish that perhaps such shift can occur. One thing that I always tell our young people is that they have expressed their will last time. Can they action it? Because it is them to decide. And I think the only time they can speak to the leaders who think that they have in control of everything, particularly parliamentarians who are thinking that they are the owners of the people, I tend to think if our young people vote as per their wish and avoid all those coercion that has happened during the rally or the campaigns, and show the leadership that it is indeed us who make decision on who becomes our leader, then I think that will be an eye-opener for all the politicians, including the ruling party, on how they want to dispense their political dispensation for 2027. And therefore, my wish is that the people of Mbere, the people of Banisa, the people of Malaba, and the people of Baringo, the few I remember at the moment, will go into, and the rest basically, will go into bring in leaders of their choice by showing those who are battling on the political grounds that no, you could do everything or anything you want, but it is us who make that decision. And therefore, mine is to say that they are the ones to shape the dynamics of our politics for 2027.
How big is the pressure for IEBC to deliver on these by-elections? Why? Because you look at the formation of IEBC, one would say the IEBC that we have today is a negotiated commission between political parties based off their formation. You remember NADCO report and Raila Odinga giving his proposal, Kalonzo Musyoka at some point even going to court because Koki Muli appearing on that commission and Ethekon himself being appointed, and the entire ecosystem around IEBC. You can see even the Standard has spoken to that today. And as we talk about the commission that we have today, many ask the question, do we trust this commission to deliver, especially having seen the abrogation of the law that do exist in a commission that is quiet? And if Kenyans today do not trust IEBC, how will 2027 look like? Do Kenyans believe and trust that IEBC will deliver is the question.
Trust is a different issue, and IEBC and how they will behave is a new issue. Because, these are new commissioners. Kenyans are hoping, beside all those dents surrounds them, Kenyans are hoping that IEBC will be delivering free and fair election. And the difference between the previous IEBC commissioners and these particular ones is that, first, they are all new, number one. Number two, they have a mini election before the major election, meaning then the way they behave, the way they will approach the current by-elections, and the outcome of the current elections satisfactory process that people will going to receive from them will guide whether these particular persons will going to deliver free and fair election in 2027. And therefore, they have a litmus test, which is the by-elections. If they misbehave in this by-election and they are not very clear in their role as a referee for the process of electioneering, then quite a number of things are likely to happen. One, people might not even wait for them to get to 2027 elections. We will protest and contest all those commissioners to be out of office. We better stay without commissioners than having people who are already predetermined on whom they want to bring in leadership.
And what happens to the 2027 elections without IEBC?
If we have stayed 2 years without commissioners, that which was already unconstitutional.
But we didn't have an election in those two years.
We had elections. How many elections?
A general election.
Yes, general election.
Yeah.
So there could be a lot of other factors. When I'm saying that we may not get them there, probably not removing them or probably out of the office because of other constitutional crises, but the fact that they have not behaved the way they are expected to, then we will going to do all the necessary things. Kenyans must decide on how they will want their elections and leadership in this country must be defined. That does not translate to conflict.
However, Dr. on that point that you raise about suspending or getting the commissioners out, the role of the IBC is merely clerical.
Correct.
They do not vote, they do not influence how the vote ought to be. So we must be careful not to plunge ourselves into a constitutional crisis and try to interfere, because levels of interference vary when it comes to an election. We have to be very careful not to interfere with the general election of 2027, because that is what the people are really working towards, to change this country. So if the clerks, because even the IBC chair is a mere clerk, is almost supposed to be the returning office of the presidential vote. If they are not working, there has to be disciplinary mechanisms within the IBC to get rid of any commissioner who misbehaves, to avoid developing in the Cherera 4 situation that you're talking about. So I think there we have to align ourselves accordingly with the constitution and the bylaws within the IBC as it functions.
No, I totally agree with you. We will not want to go into constitutional crisis. And Kenyans indeed are looking forward to 2027 election. It matters to them. With everything that has happened in 2024, and of course their expectation and perspective of the current by-elections, of course, we will never want to be in a constitutional crisis. I always tell people, better have a bad government than no government, because I've worked in around 21 countries that has gone into conflict, and the situation in those countries, Sudan is an example, Somalia is an example. I mean, 36 years down the line, Somalia is still unruly.
Right.
There's nothing going on, and therefore I think there are no mechanisms that are in place, for example, on issues related to commissioners, being punished. The issue of commissioners being punished is issues related to tribunals. And therefore, that is again another process, and it comes from the executive.
Indeed. So, I think that there's a lot of work to be done, and I think that this rests on on then Kenyans' knowledge and understanding gives you power.
Absolutely.
And once you have that, then you're really aware of what you can and cannot do. And it's clear that there seems to be the folks fighting tooth and nail to ensure that Kenyans then don't have that knowledge. These conversations continue, and thank you for being part of this one this morning. Dr. Harun Isaac Hassan is a governance expert, has been here with us this morning to look into some of these issues. The by-election 2027, rather the by-election 2025 is an eye into 2027, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Asante Sana for being here this morning. We continue with these conversations at 8:01. Good morning.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Police in Kirinyaga County have launched investigations into the gruesome killing of 22-year-old college student Joyline Ruguru, whose mutilated body was discovered a week after she went missing. The shocking find, made a coffee plantation near Gishugu village, has left residents shaken and her family devastated. Ruguru, a first-year student at Embu College, was last seen more than 7 days ago. Her family reported her disappearance at Kiamatungu police station and mounted an extensive search. That search ended in tragedy when her decomposed and severely disfigured body was found in a farm in Ngotho. According to police and residents at the scene, the body was discovered without the head and with several other parts missing. A man accused of impersonating a senior military officer to defraud parents seeking Kenya Defence Forces recruitment slots is set to face multiple counts, including impersonation, possession of government stores and obtaining money by false pretenses. Mungai claimed to be a brigadier with the power to influence admissions to the KDF Recruitment Training School RTS at Moi Barracks Eldoret. The prosecution told the court that Mungai used the military attire and his assumed rank to gain victims' trust and allegedly received 1.2 million from two parents. Mungai denied all the charges and was granted a bond of 1 million shillings or an alternative cash bill of 500,000 Kenya shillings and directed that the case proceed to pre-trial. The Treasury is under scrutiny for using 2.69 trillion in domestic loans to fund general government spending instead of earmarked development projects. A report by the Auditor General reveals that the money raised between 2018 and 2023 largely went to cover routine exchequer releases and debt maturities, bypassing the intended development agenda. According to the performance audit on the management of the cash and domestic debt, the government borrowed 2.97 trillion through treasury bonds between July 2018 and June 2023. The Office of the Auditor General notes that despite fiscal rules requiring borrowing to support development, the Treasury has been operating without a framework to ensure that proceeds from domestic loans are ring-fenced for the purpose, even as public debt has surpassed 12 trillion shillings. Auditor General Nancy Gathungu states that out of this amount, 2.67 trillion was transferred to the Consolidated Fund Services account, of which 558.87 billion shillings was utilized to settle maturing domestic debt, and the remaining balance of 2.1 trillion funded exchequer releases to ministries, departments and agencies. However, the audit report shows that the remaining 300 billion Kenya shillings, which was not deposited into the consolidated fund, could not be accounted for, with the findings giving no indication of how it was used. That is the Newswire. I'm Nyamweya Ubaga.
SpiceFM. Kisumu.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord. It shouldn't be like that.
I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, stagi kuongea today. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord. It shouldn't be like that.
I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary
that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, stagi kuongea. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 10 minutes after 8 o'clock, and our conversations continue this morning as we have been through into the third hour of the Situation Room this morning, and having those conversations necessary that we do. So while the politics of the day have taken center stage, there are other issues in the country that should also take center stage. It's a big stage, and we need an involved audience in all of this to then be able to sort out particular issues. The education conversation is one that we've never been shy about having in this room, and we'll continue to do that even this hour, right? So we will be talking this morning into matters education. The JSS teachers have had a thing to say about JSS being domiciled in primary schools. They've also asked for autonomy when it comes to certain things. This is the conversation that we will be having this morning. Paul Wahungu is the interim Secretary General at Kejusta. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning.
Karibu sana. Joseph Karuri is a union official with the Kenya National Union of Teachers in the Nairobi branch. He's here as well this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana. Good to have you both here. The JSS autonomy debate is what we'll be talking about, what it means for teachers, schools and students. We're getting into that this morning. But Dennis Aseto wants to welcome you with today's proverb. We would love to get your interpretation of it as we get into things.
You see, proverbs, we go to different countries, but this week we're doing it a little bit different, eh? So we go to every different country every day. So today we are in Kenya, and this is a quote that came from an enigma of politics, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga the late. Now, don't be afraid of dying. Even if you die and go to hell, there's nothing to worry about, because you'll find your friends there. Paul, how would you interpret that? What do you think Raila Odinga meant?
Okay, I think first of all, I respect the enigma, and for his perspective, I think it was a very universal submission from him, believing that we are not just the physical human beings, but we are twofold human beings who have something eternal within us all. So we should not be afraid of exiting the physical plane, because we can. I think as all believers, we believe that there is eternity in many ways. Yeah, I think that's what I can say with regard to that.
Joseph,
thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so much respect to the enigma. May his soul rest in peace. In regard to the statement, I think he's trying to give away into the Kenyans and the young people on advocacy, saying that when you decide to fight for a cause, you should not think of the unseen. Like when you talk about hell, you don't know, nobody has been in hell. So he's just advocating for us to be able to fight for a cause without thinking about the unseen. Yes.
Interesting. All right. 2019 was a very interesting year because the education system essentially turned on its axis, and then we saw the first cohorts, as we're calling them, we call them the pilgrims of this particular education system, start grade 3. We've moved along until the same class finally moved and then got to grade 7. which is now when things started to look a bit funny, isn't it? And that junior secondary school, which would comprise of grade 7, 8, and 9, are high schoolers. By all, for all intents and purposes, are in high school according to the new curriculum and the system. And then 10, 11, and 12 would be senior secondary school, but again, for all intents and purposes, are still high school. Now, for these high school students, they need to be taught by high school teachers, isn't it?
Yes.
But we were told that junior secondary school would be domiciled in primary school. The reasons abound. But that meant that the teachers who teach them would remain in primary school and for all intents and purposes be primary school teachers teaching high school students. Am I right so far? Or would that change a little bit? Let's start off and start, because even as we say that, we're all silent, because as we've laid the ground, that's exactly what it is. But there seems to be some uncomfortability about that entire conversation, whereby JSS teachers are now saying, no, we need our own space to be able to do this in terms of autonomy. And that then brings us into the conversation that we'll have this morning. And where is this uncomfortability coming from? Why don't we like it? What's the problem? Let's start off with you, Paul.
Thank you so much for this invitation to clarify on what is bringing questions from JSS teachers. So the cessational paper of 2019 which introduced the CBC, proposed a framework of 2 years in ECD, that is PP1 and PP2, then 6 years in primary school, then 3 years in junior school, and 3 years in senior school, and 3 years in university. And the curriculum, the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, as it was developing that curriculum and coming up with even the curriculum of JSS, it thought that this JSS is supposed to be taught by post-primary educators. And the previous regime, the previous government, constructed classrooms for junior school in senior schools because it knew that the resources needed and the expertise needed is supposed to be of post-primary nature. And due to the infrastructural gaps then, is when now this new regime of the President William Ruto thought that through the Presidential Working Party, they recommended that junior school be domiciled in primary school because of infrastructural gaps then. And but now that will mean that now post-primary teachers will have to be posted to those primary schools where they are domiciled to be able to handle the JSS learners. And as that arrangement happened like that, at the onset, when the JSS was starting, within those primary schools, we had 2 boards of management. There was a board of management for JSS, and there was a board of management for primary school. And it was very important because the Constitution states that each level of each tier of each level of education has to be managed independently. Why? So that the expertise, accountability, and to ensure that learners are handled by people who understand their unique needs. So during that arrangement, it happened that the heads of primary school were given to work in acting capacity for 1 year.
Okay.
And the government was, I was among the first cohort to be posted, the first cohort who was having come from senior school to go and serve those junior schools. So this this transitional measure, as now time has gone by, it wants now to be put into law, without having to pass through a parliament. Very many stakeholders distance themselves from the recommendation of the working party, including even the parliament, including even the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Teachers, including the Teacher Service Commission. It said that the Presidential Working Party somehow overstepped on the mandate of the parliament. And right now we are implementing the system using the recommendations without maybe amending the Education Act.
But if we can pinpoint the issue, what's the problem exactly? Because here we are saying, again, it may be necessary for us to do, we are saying that for all intents and purposes, these learners are high school students, right?
Yeah.
But we're going to keep them at primary school domicility in primary schools, and that they must be taught by high school teachers in primary schools. Are we then doing that and degrading teachers? Is that the problem?
It is degrading teachers and also denying the learners to see the sense of progression. Having transitioned from primary school to junior school, they have to see we have moved from one level to another level, and also to ensure that now these learners are given attention based on the level that they have been that they are currently best. Yeah, they have the GSS learners have unique psychosocial needs. They have unique curriculum needs, because this learner at this level, this is the stage where they are identifying their career pathway. At this stage, by the time they leave junior school, they're living with 3 learning areas. Something that used to happen under the 844. Somebody will choose a career pathway after finishing his high school. But at this moment, under the competence-based curriculum, this learner is choosing at the end of grade 9, the third year in junior school. That's why we are saying that these learners need the attention that they need, separated from primary school learners.
Okay, so Joseph, sorry. Are junior school teachers teaching others? Are they not just for junior school students in school? Because it would appear that from what he's saying, that there would be a mix and that there's no attention that's given just to junior school students.
Okay, thank you. First of all, let me start by talking about the sessional paper that he quoted, and say that the current system we're implementing, the sessional paper, is not in place. If you check the facts right, it is not in place, and that is what that is being pushed in Parliament. So we jumped into an education system without having a sessional paper. Secondly, the issue of GSS is not in the Education Act. The structure is talking about pre-primary, it's talking about primary, it's talking about secondary. Having said that, the issue of GSS came up, and in the build-up to 2022 elections, there was a lot of uproar from the Wananchi when the presidential candidates were going around. You could remember people saying of how they are doing homework with the students and all that. So the winner of the presidential election, who is His Excellency Ruto, when he came in, he wanted to address that because it was in his manifesto. And when he came, he first initially came up with the Presidential Working Party and invited all stakeholders, including NAT and KUPPET, to come, and all other stakeholders, so that we have a discussion, a conversation on how we are going to run the JSS. So that was something that is legal, and it came up with recommendations, and one of the recommendations was that the JS to be domiciled in the primary school, and this was based on facts. First of all, it was based on fact. First of all, when you talk about primary schools, we're talking about 35,000. Around in the 2023, there was a survey of the number of schools in primary, public and private, 35,500.
This is including the ghost schools.
Yes, which are very few, to say the truth. When it came to the high school, the number of high schools, they are about 11,000, 10,500 thereabout, according to the 2023 survey. So you could imagine, when you're talking about the 100% transition, it was not possible. The schools that Paul is talking about, you're talking about as one school. For example, the school that I teach is only one school I teach in a high school. Only one school, one classroom. Only one classroom was built. Vis-a-vis the 4 streams that are coming up from primary. So obviously it could not make sense under the late Magoha that one classroom that was being built too, the 100% transition was not possible. So when the president came with his team, he saw that the only way that could have been possible is to domicile them in primary. That one is based on infrastructure. Then there are other factors. Look at those students. You're talking about a grade 7 student who is how many years old? Averagely 12, 13 years old. Being domiciled together with a secondary school student at 19 years, 18 years.
Who are on their way out. The 19-year-old is in Form 4.
Yeah, exactly.
18-year-old.
These are the Parents Association were like, jittery. How do you put this 19-year-old, 18-year-old with a 13, 12-year-old boy in the same? It's not making sense. The disparity was not possible. So there were so many factors. And that being said, the students are now in primary school and the rollout started. The teachers from junior school who are specialized in 2 subjects, they are supposed to be teaching in secondary, they are brought. They are hosted in primary school. They are domiciled there. What's the problem with these teachers teaching in primary school? They are teaching Kenyan learners. They are using the same curriculum from KCD. What's the big issue?
Question.
Yes.
So even as you mentioned about matters to do with the infrastructure that was addressed by the Presidential Working Party. But even then, if you look at the junior school JSS students at that particular time, they're supposed to have laboratories. Primary schools don't have those things.
Exactly.
You know? So if you look back at the decision to domicile JSS in high schools, it's because the infrastructure problem that we are addressing in terms of not just schools, but you look at other facilities that are needed, especially on those who are heading towards science subjects. You know, they would have all these infrastructure in high school. So in terms of domiciling these at primary, fine, we might have addressed the aspect of 100% transition, but we have not addressed the fact that we do not have other infrastructure to support JSS teaching in primary. But then again, there is also the question of JSS teachers are qualified to teach high school. So here's a question where a head teacher in primary school, JSS teachers look at them as not fit enough for them to report to, which is part of the conversation today in terms of seeking autonomy. As the Presidential Working Party was giving their recommendation and everything else, is this that one thing that they focused on, or they did not see that becoming a problem in the future?
Okay, regarding to these teachers in JSS teaching here, one thing that I've said, the gap in the secondary schools was so big. I'm not refuting to the fact that we still had gaps in primary school, but there was a way. The gaps in infrastructure in the primary and in the secondary. So the gap in the secondary was few, because when you talk about the classrooms are enough. Although the government is still adding up because of the numbers that are bulging up. When you talk about laboratories, these are things you can put very fast, because as we are speaking right now, most of these JSS schools in the primary section have laboratories, 1 or 2, and then Rome was not built in one day. So having assessed the gaps, and the government saw that the gaps are more in secondary, so they domiciled in primary. So it was easy and it was faster to bridge the gap of laboratories and all that.
Joseph, Rome was not built in one day.
Yes.
But here we're talking about an education system for children who ought to have these laboratories from the word go when they start learning. It is unfair and it is wrong to say that we are getting into a system and children getting to learn without prerequisite equipment and facilities that will enable them get into these pathways as expected. Rome was not built in one day, fine. But education of these children, of these students, ought to have been thought from the word go and implementation done right.
Okay, let me answer him
as you respond to that. You know, because in this country, I personally am tired of talking about systems. I mean, symptoms. It is best we get to the crux of the matter and understand what is the real problem. Because today you could hold brief for the regime or the position that you assume, but you would personally, as a parent, because we are parents in different ways, you understand that what is happening to your fellow teachers and the pupils and the students is unfair. But my question is this to both of you. At the crafting of the CBC, there was research. We involved educationists, we involved curriculum specialists, so that we could develop a curriculum and shift the country from KCPE to this new system. I would imagine that not only did they focus on the content of what will be taught, but also they focused on the personnel, who are the teachers, and also the infrastructure, where these now various clusters will be domiciled and well facilitated so that the learning can happen. Because we can gamble with anything else, but not education. So where did we miss the mark? Because this cannot be an afterthought, that we don't know where JSS Union is going to go. Where did we miss the mark?
Okay, one, when I respond to him, when I say Rome was not built in one day, I'm saying to this fact. When we talk about laboratories, that is one issue. When you talk about classrooms, that is one issue. So Dennis, I don't know what you want to mean that they could have gone to high school, they stay under the tree and they have a laboratory. Maybe I don't know if that's the interpretation, because I started by telling you the classrooms were available in primary schools, but there were other issues like laboratory. I'm not refuting that they were needed. But now, so that I come to your question, you realize that initially, Kenya National Union of Teachers, under the leadership of the SGs, former SG Socio, was against this system initially, not merely opposing, but they were saying, we are not ready. You have said, he's saying we have a session of paper, we don't have a session of paper. So we jumped into a system that we don't have even a session of paper. So we were saying, let us take time, let us build systems, let us prepare ourselves for the years. But through the systems of the day, it came out to be. So when we are speaking about a system that is already with us, and we are looking for a best way in which we can be able to maneuver there.
Paul, where did we miss the mark?
Thank you so much. I'll first of all, before I connect with your question, is saying that we don't have a session of paper. Then if we don't have a session on paper, was the implementation of this curriculum theoretical, or was it written somewhere? There was a session of paper of 2019 that proposed the 2633 framework. That's what it was adopted. Several people like Nelson Harvey had gone to even oppose it, but the court upheld it. So this is where we went wrong. On where we went wrong is that the people who now did the research, that now went and introduced the CBC, there are recommendations which they proposed, and that's why they constructed the classrooms in senior secondary school. But now the problem came from politics. You know, politics affects greatly the education system of our country. So it was now politics which now changed the formation. In fact, during the campaign before the new regime came into power, he says that I think I used to hear President Ruto say, when I raise the Bible and I lower it down, the CBC will be down. So I think the current arrangement is kind of trying to bring down the CBC, to convert this system from 2633 to 2933. That is actually what is happening. And the issue of domiciling in primary, in fact, for us GSS teachers, we settled the matter. We said now, for us, we're not pushing to be taken back to senior school. We are saying domicile should not mean dependency. That's what we are saying. And we recognize the fact that why we recognize there's infrastructural gaps. Secondly, there's also teacher gaps, because these are teachers who have trained in two learning areas. They have been put in a situation to be managed by people who, in primary school, they teach almost all learning areas. So for them, they might think, for us teaching also all learning areas, it's normal, it's okay. But this level is a level of specialization now, which now there's a huge problem where they are now comfortable, where in fact we have schools where even ECD teachers are going to teach GSS learners. So you ask yourself, while they're doing that, who is attending to the ECD learner?
Why is that happening?
You get the point?
Yeah.
It is happening because of teacher shortage.
Okay.
And everything that is happening at GSS as attire has been greatly ignored. You are seeing GSS intern teachers are on the streets. They're earning very less, but yet they're even doing more than what even their appointment letter states like. For example, I'm personally trained as a biology and chemistry teacher. But when we started, I was teaching business studies, I was teaching agriculture, I was teaching pre-technical studies. But we're saying that let this GSS be given a post-primary administrator. They will understand the need to even hire learning areas which there is shortage. But most of these primary school teachers, they don't see the need of hiring. They will look within, say, it's okay. We can even have the ACD teacher go and teach there. We can have the primary.
Is there an understanding that and this is why, if you remember at the beginning of this conversation, we had a foundation and we said, JSS, whichever way you look at it, these are high school learners. They have finished primary school. According to this curriculum, which, by the way, yes, the sessional paper 2019 is the one that is guiding reforms in the education sector, and it is what gave CBC life. It exists. It's there. Do we realize that they have finished primary school? That remember that the current form, the children that are going into Form 3 in January were the ones who sat the last KCPE. That meant anybody coming in after them, once they get to grade 7, they are in high school. They are. So, if we are saying that you can send anybody, if you can send an ECD teacher to capture these learning areas, what we are saying is that an ECD teacher is now teaching high school. But we want to say JSS as though, and to an extent, if we hear what they're saying, we want to say it's JSS. So anybody can go in and teach, and it will be okay. When we get to grade 10, then we can focus. Are we doing a disservice to both the students and the teachers by doing that?
Okay, so if I may respond to that, the issue of ECD, I don't know, I doubt. But when you talk about the let me speak kindly. When we speak about the primary school teachers, things have changed. These things are not the way as maybe people still think. Most of these primary school teachers have advanced. They have gone back to school. Some of them
have been retooled and retrained.
They have been retooled. Most of them are graduates. So the qualification is the same. They have gone back to school. They have done. Others have done masters. Others are even pursuing PhD. So these are teachers who are equally experienced. These JSS teachers have just graduated from university. They have come. We have teachers who have been in the field. They are experienced. They have skills. Even in the previous curriculum, they were able to learn in so many areas. The 844, they did art and craft, they did home science. So they did music. They're able to competently handle these learners. And that's the reason why you've seen, even the Teacher Service Commission and the government, they have seen, they're giving a proposal that they can bring World Bank, they further retool these teachers so that they are able to competently handle the JSS. There's a paradigm shift, because when you look at the group that we have right now handling the JSS, they're handling 2 subjects, as Paul has said, and you realize there are so many learning areas within. So the primary school teachers have come in handy, and they have competently been able to handle these students
to cover the gaps.
And this is the reason why the government is now shifting, saying, "Hey, we can use this group," and because we have been having a lot of problems with the JSS, they are not comfortable. They want to be in senior school. There's that. And what I'm saying, and this should be captured very well, it is not the work of the junior school teachers to dictate policy. The policy comes from the Ministry of Education and the government.
So what is the policy then?
What's the policy
on GSS?
On GSS teachers.
The policy on GSS teachers is that the domiciling is in primary school. And there is the issue to do with the teaching being sent there. But now, instead of teaching, they are making a lot of noise. Now, let me add something. I'm not refuting.
Let's have a GSS teacher.
Let me finish up, and then he comes in. Finally, I also want to agree to the fact that Paul is saying we have a shortage. we have a shortage in the staffing. And it is due to that shortage that the heads of the primary school have come in to be able to bridge the gap. We have teachers who are qualified. So they cannot sit and wait and say that these learners are going to go unattended. So the gap has been bridged. And I've said, even most of those head of institutions that they are saying that they cannot be able to give authority. They have degrees, they have masters.
I have a very simple question.
Yes.
And I think it will emanate from the training of teachers. Simple. Paul, a primary school teacher is trained to teach how many subjects?
I think he maybe is in a better side.
Can be able to teach 5.
5.
Yes.
A JSS teacher is specialized to teach how many subjects?
2. Yeah.
So from the word go, when we begin in terms of even teacher training, a primary school teacher, there's no way can teach JSS.
That is supposed to be the case,
and that is based off training from
in specialization.
Specialization.
Yeah.
Cool. So here is a question where we talk about teachers being allowed from primary school to teach high school because they have gone back to school and they have gotten their degrees and even their masters. But from the word go, when it comes to teacher training and where one is supposed to train, it is clear on how that is supposed to happen, right?
Yeah.
You are a chemistry and a biology teacher. That is your specialization. Do you have report of teachers of your caliber who teach in JSS and do not have laboratories? If you have that information, just say.
Yes.
Yeah. That means the current JSS students who are supposed to go through these pathways in science, there are those who have gone through the system without having the requisite infrastructure that needs them and that would make them qualify for what it is they need to do.
Absolutely.
That means even when you try to speak about infrastructure, we failed from the word go.
Exactly.
Yet these are things that when it comes to education ought to have been thought about from the word go and ensure that these students get the very best.
Exactly.
Okay. Hey, what is your question?
So what is the policy? What's the understanding of the operating policy regarding the GSS?
Yeah, so in fact, on that policy, I will also use that one to respond to his submission.
Kindly.
That primary school teachers have masters, have PhD, and are qualified to teach by virtue of that. Very many people in this country have PhDs and masters. It does not mean that if you have a master's or PhD, you are qualified to go and teach at a certain level. Yeah, so the TSC came up with qualifications for somebody to be deployed to GSS. There were things that they were looking at. There are people, for example, who have a degree in a degree or a master's in ECD. Does not mean that if you have a master's degree, you have now qualified to become a post-primary teacher. That's what is happening. That's what the argument is. And the deployment, TSC came up, they gave the minimum two learning area. You have to meet this one. Then you have to have gone back to school to be upgraded, to be trained as a post-primary teacher, not looking at the qualification you're going to look or the degree that you're going to acquire. And TSC have been deploying teachers from primary based on that. But because of the push, NAT Union is very good when it comes to politicking. You remember even what happens to status when the issue was being discussed, was being laid forward by the Secretary General of Kupet. They made noise so that the truth does not come out clearly. This issue of the policy itself, we are asking, first of all, maybe I can ask my counterpart here to explain what is the interest of the primary school. What interest does primary school have over GSS? Why is it interested in the other level? It's like now junior school to be interested in matters of city school. What is making it? What is making them hard to recognize that the 3 in GSS is a post-primary tier? It is after the learner has left primary. That's why even uniforms are different.
Can I ask a different question that perhaps can fuel that? Are there benefits that junior school teachers should have even if they're domiciled in primary school, that maybe somebody will be uncomfortable with them having?
When you talk about benefits, I think he should be able to give that direction because he's coming from Kejusta. But if I can be able to answer on the issue of interest, I want to bring it to your attention that the issue of JSS started with them being domiciled in secondary school under Professor Magoha, and I agree to that. Then there was a conversation, and there was a conversation by the Presidential Working Party. Stakeholders were there. Everyone was invited. Even Kupet was invited, and they didn't attend. They came to catch up later. We went as NAT, we tabled our reason as to why they should be domiciled in primary schools.
Which is what?
And eventually...
Sorry, what's that reason?
Why they should be domiciled in primary school.
Apart from that, children of different ages.
We have already discussed that. We are repeating the issue of infrastructure, the issue of the students, the differences in terms of years. There was that came from the Parents Association.
But isn't the real reason the unionization?
That's why I'm asking. What's the reason?
Then there's also the issue of union. Now, when it comes to that fact, I want us to understand. First, they were in secondary school, but based on NAT proposal, based on other stakeholders, because NATO is not the only one that gave proposal, there was a unanimous decision, and the report was given that these students now should be able to go back to primary school. And I've given reasons as to why.
Yes.
After going there, now you listen about Kupet. They have tried very much to bring these members back to secondary. After failing to be able to to bring the narrative, they have now decided, no, it's not now an issue to take back to secondary. I think that is water under the bridge. Now we want autonomy. Because even when you're pushing about autonomy, these JSS teachers, there's someone behind it. And the someone is Kupet.
Let me
Kupet's leadership, because they are interested in membership.
Because you mentioned Kupet. If the JSS teachers remain in primary school, which union will they belong to? And if they go to autonomy or to the secondary school, which union will they belong to?
When it comes to the issue of membership, as we are speaking right now, that was I was telling about the sessional paper. The structure and the different levels are dictated by the Education Act. That is something that is subject in the discussion in Parliament. When we went to State House the other day, and I was present, it was addressed by the President. In fact, he said within 45 days, the chair of the Education Committee, Honorable Meli, was told to fast track. So when I was speaking about the session of paper, I was meaning exactly that. The Education Act that we are speaking about currently is not clear on where JSS lies. So that is a fight that is continuing. Even as you're speaking right now, in JS, we still have groups of teachers who are in NAT, and we have some who are in Kupet. So it's a status to do with membership.
Paul, let me ask this question, Paul. JSS is post-primary education, right?
Yes,
that means it is high school.
Yeah, it's not Kupet. It's not primary.
It's not primary.
No. Let me answer you. When we speak about secondary, the proposal of the Presidential Working Party was that they were going to be called junior school. And there was a proposal of something that was called comprehensive schools. Comprehensive school means there was going to be a complete system up to grade 9. When we argue it in that fact, that means this comprehensive school will be under NAT.
The conversation
that's where the conversation is having.
The conversation is what is, and he's talking about what is the situation right now. Yes.
My question is, JSS as is right now is post-primary education.
Yes, it is.
Right?
Yes.
That means when it comes to union, we know. We don't need to say it.
So the teachers who teach JSS essentially are no longer Kupet.
They are but we are Kupet members. JSS. In fact, we are paying union dues to Kupet because we are post-primary.
Post-primary. Okay. So you actually the teachers in JSS are actually Kupet teachers.
They are Kupet teachers.
We still have junior school teachers who are not.
Yes, those ones, and that's why I was saying that there was the issue of deployment. Yes, there are teachers from primary school who are deployed best because they went and advanced to become post-primary teachers. And as I'm speaking, most of these deployed teachers, they will be leaving NAT also. They will be joining our post-primary union. And I want to add something on what is interesting, what is making primary to say that GSS must be under us. It's like at some point your child wakes up and tell you, now, my dad, you are going to be under me. Because there has to be that rank. There's a level. It's like now, will it be fair for us to say, is primary school to be under ECD? Will it be fair to say that? Because at the moment, ECD is under the county government, primary under the head teacher, GSS should be under a principal.
Principals, yes.
And by the way, this thing, as they are pushing for comprehensive school, they are pushing as we have had my counterpart, they're pushing because when they win the issue of comprehensive school, then they will be pushing for GSS teachers to be union members of NAT. That is basically what they're pushing for. Number one, interest. Interest number two is about the... And I'm sorry to say this, it's about capitation. It's about money. It's about money that is going in GSS. That's what is bringing issues there. That's what is making them. Why should somebody be concerned with a different type? You know that you're a primary school educator. Why are you concerned with the next level? Then there must be something that is making you interested. But for us as GSS teachers, what is interesting us, because we are also parents, we have young ones, we want to have a system where we are confident of taking my child to that school, knowing that that learner is going to be handled in a proper manner. I don't want to, my child reaches junior school, I don't want to take them to academy. But if the current situation continues like the way it is, even us as GSS teachers in this country will not have confidence in enrolling our children in GSS institutions.
Which brings me to the question, as this push and pull continues, you know, we have children in school.
Correct.
We have parents who hope that these children will go through an education system and they will get out being individuals who are able to stand for themselves and be able to be proud of an education system that gave them power to read. As this push and pull continues, the person who is suffering the most is the child. Do we ever sit and care or just pause and think of the quality of education and our role as educationists, both of you, right? Your role in ensuring that this education needs to be proper. Whether I belong to Kupet, I belong to NAT, that education of our children is front and center. Do we ever think about it?
Yeah, that one is always a factor when talk about NAT, and when we speak of quality, that's the reason I'm saying we are having teachers being retooled to be able to support these learners. And when we saw gaps, we could not sit and say that there are 4 learning areas that are not being taught. The teachers could come in handy. I also want to respond to my colleague from the sister union on the issue of membership. I want to bring it to your attention that NAT is the mother union. And one of the functions of NAT is to unite teachers across all grades. So for Kupet, it deals with post-primary only. But Kenya National Union of Teachers, objective number 1 and function is bring teachers together across all grades. So when you talk about representation, they represent, majority of the teachers are in primary, but they also have members who are in secondary. Myself, I teach in a high school, but I'm a NAT member. So we still have teachers in secondary and in junior school and in primary section because the constitution allows, it's open. But for Kupet is only a section, post-primary. So when you talk about members, I wanted to clear that issue.
You mentioned capitation. What do you have to say about that?
It's obvious, and I don't want the fact that we are pushing because of capitation and membership. Because what we are dealing with something that was given as a proposal from the Presidential Working Party. So when we are coming here to having a conversation, we are having a conversation as us based on what? Because the current implementation is based on the Presidential Working Party, and that's the reason why you're finding these recommendations have been implemented. partly there are discussion going on in Parliament about the sessional paper and an Education Act, because the current Education Act that we have of 2013 does not capture JSS. So I started by saying NAT was opposed to this thing, but because of the powers, the thing was implemented, and there are teachers who are interdicted from members of NAT because of opposing. It is in public. But now when it came, as NAT now, it has been forced onto the Kenyan system. Now we have to live by it. So as we move by, we have this proposal from the Presidential Working Party. So we are working with it. So we are anchored on something.
So Joseph, the thing about stakeholder progression and participation is that you don't deal with statues. You're dealing with human beings who along the line, if you see that something is going to cause a bump along the road, then you can actually have conversations around them. You make it seem as though because the Presidential Working Party made proposals that they are now cast in stone, and it is those proposals then that must be the reality. Because when you get into the system, you see that certain things may not work. Are you saying there's no possibility to have conversations towards an implementation of something that would change when you're faced with the reality of a situation? Would that not come into play?
The conversation is there, and it has been continuous, but the conversation may not be dictated from one side.
My question is it not possible to have conversations around a different form of implementation once you realize the reality of the times?
It is possible, but according to me, the current reality is that JSS has been a success under the leadership of the primary administration. It has been a success. They are able now to transit to the next level. The gaps that are there will continue to being addressed. More teachers are being sent. And the case of the JSS teachers being domiciled there, there is that issue of them being under the structure that is being pushed of comprehensive school. If it comes to place, then they won't be having any issue of not being there, because they are trying to dictate something that they are not supposed to be able to dictate. Because
but Paul, who is a JSS teacher himself, does not agree with that statement.
Thank you. In fact, I was very happy when he said that he's not teaching JSS. So he does not understand where the wearers of the shoe, and we know. And I'm not surprised when he says that he is not teaching JSS, and he's saying that the head teachers ran JSS successful, but he was not there to see. We are there. We are living the reality, and I want also to touch on something that he said, that JSS teachers graduated the other day. I don't know from what facts he's laying from. This is my 10th year of teaching, post-primary educator. And there are very many teachers who within JSS who graduated a very long time ago. And you know that how employment of teachers works. The government used to employ only 5,000 teachers per year. So many teachers were working in private institutions, in board of management. So these teachers have experience. And I don't know which part of the law says that somebody is too young to become a leader. I know very many companies, multi-billion companies with very young leaders, and they're doing well. And this system, the conversation can we change maybe the things that are not fitting? Yes, we can do that. And as JSS teachers, we are the curriculum implementers, and we have a say in the curriculum because we are the people who are going to implement it. So if you say there's a problem somewhere, it's because we have seen that in this implementation there's something that is not okay.
Even as you say that, because the time just comes, it might come as a surprise to many, but without the children and the learners in all of this, nobody, JSS, Ken, Kupet, NAT, nobody would be here. The primary stakeholders in all of this are these learners. Everybody else are adjunct. So should that not be the focus in all of this? That how are we going to deliver an education which is not sub but optimal Because these fights, somebody's saying they are not, they are. Others are saying we should, we shouldn't. But this child then is somehow floating through. Like the ones who are going to grade 10. May God have mercy. Yeah. Because the way they've been handled from grade 3 to now going to grade 10 in January 2026, it's these things that have brought about what unfortunately is a substandard in the delivery of their education. That is the truth. So how are we going to get to a point where we're able to drop all of these things, have real meaningful conversations that don't matter about membership or capitation, but that matter about the education of these children? That should be our true north. How do we get there? In a minute each.
Okay. First, I want to say that the current structure that is happening is not new. We have had the A-level, where we had the Form 5 and 6 still together with the rest of the system, and it was being run by the principal. So this thing is not new, and it is possible. We have seen it work previously, and you can be able to have it done. When you talk about the learner, the focus on the learner, we say that we have gaps. As NAT, we agree we have gaps. We have gaps even in terms of issues to do with laboratories and all those other factors, but these are gaps that are being addressed continuously. So we want to encourage the government to be able to employ more teachers so that they can be able to address these issues. At the same time, we still hold the fact that the teachers that we have in the primary section are competent enough to be able to handle that. So the issue of World Bank being sponsoring the teachers, it's welcome on our side, so that we're able to assist the learners and be able to upgrade their learning areas and achieve it.
Yeah, so for me, as and for me, and on behalf of my fellow GSS teachers, as responsible educators who mean well for this education system, we have taken necessary steps to make sure that the abnormality that is there is corrected. In this sense, the discussion in Parliament, we are the one who took it there through different members of Parliament. We have also filed a High Court petition to prove that the best interests of the child are being ignored, and that the needs of the child should be met. So we have petitioned Parliament, we have petitioned High Court, and we are waiting also for the interpretation. How do they view this matter? And we will go with what the High Court will proclaim itself on this matter. We have a strict interpretation for the best interest of the child.
All right.
Yeah.
It is a thorny conversation. It still needs to happen, and I keep insisting, I think we all do, that education delivered to the children has to be optimal. This is not it. It doesn't work like this. So let's continue talking. Let's continue engaging, but we've got to get somewhere, and we've got to get there quick. Paul Wahungu is the Interim Secretary General of the Kenya Junior Schools Teachers Association. Joseph Karori is the union official with NUT Nairobi branch. Thank you both of you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
It's 2 minutes past 9. Good morning.
News from World 94.4 Spice FM.
The Bishop of the SCK Mbere Diocese, Moses Mashamba, has condemned an incident in which a man allegedly attempted to attack DCP leader Rigathi Gachagua with a knife on Sunday. Speaking during a church consecration, Bishop Mashamba urged the community to uphold peace and unity during the by-election period.
Kulitokea changamoto ya violence ambayo ilileta trauma, ilileta picha mbaya ambayo katika kanisa letu hatujawahi kuwa na changamoto kama hiyo, na tukubali changamoto kama hizo. Kwa hivyo kwanza tumekuja kuomba na kutakaza kanisa. Kwa hiyo maneno yalifanyika, kuombea yule kijana anaitwa Gitonga ambaye alikuwa kwa hiyo shinda ili apate kupona mahali ameugua, kanisa kwa sababu ulikuwa na hiyo changamoto. Wanasema pengine hata damu ilimwaga huko ndani.
He further called on residents of Mbere Magharibi to accept the election outcome and remain peaceful even if their preferred candidate is not elected.
Na tunauliza watu wote ambao wako na kura wajitokeshe kwa wingi, waende wachaguane kwa hiari, si kwa lazima ama kwa vunjo. Na tunaomba kusiwe na vitina yoyote ama changamoto kama ilikuwa jana. Tupeane uhuru, kila mtu afanye yale anaona ni ya muhimu kama kidemokrasia inakubali. Yetu ni kuombea wao wote candidates. Kwangu mimi kama askofu wote wanatosha. Yule atachaguliwa ndiye ataungwa mkono na kila mtu. Tumshikilie apeane uongozi.
More than 500 traders in Kitale are counting losses after their stalls were demolished and set ablaze early this morning. One trader said they received notice only last evening, claiming the Trans Nzoia County government moved ahead with the demolition without proving an alternative trading space, as markets at Masinde-Muliro Complex and Railway are still incomplete.
Jana tulitumiwa notice saa 12 na notice ikatuambia immediately effect. So sisi tumeenda nyumbani, tunakuja asubuhi, mimi naingia town 6. Pata vitu zangu zimechomwa, kila kitu imeharibiwa. The first born mimi ni breadwinner kwetu. Mimi ndio nalea mama yangu, nalea baba yangu, nalea watoto wetu wote. Sasa wanataka niende wapi? Soko haijafunguliwa. Soko zote mbili hazijafunguliwa. Nataka kuuliza tu county government of Trans Nzoia na the boss natembea, watu waambie tunaenda wapi. Sasa tuko stranded, hatuna anything, hatujui penye tunaanzia kama wanafanya biashara wa Kitale, na tunataka msaada. Juu hawezi kutuchomea. Kwanza saa hizo wameka air pollution, wanachoma mchana na kuna watu wanapita kwa barabara. Watu waambie tu tunaenda wapi.
Several traders report losses after their goods were damaged, looted or burnt.
Tulikuwa tumewekeza vitu zetu hapo. Mimi ni mlemavu, hata unavyoniangalia hivi nimeshona viatu hadi nimepata kununua kitu kidogo kiosk. Ndio hiyo wamechoma zote. Sasa hivi watoto wangu sijui watakula wapi. Mimi ndio wananitegemea.
Naomba hii serikali ya Trans Nzoia iweze kutusaidia na iweze kutusikiza. Hata sisi mimi niliko hivi ni mwana boda boda. Hapo ndio stage yangu mbele ya North Rift Parcel. Na sasa hivi wateja wangu wengi wanawachukua ni vile mbomolewa hapa, sidhani kama ndawapata. Kama mimi sasa hivi hapo vile wamewasha, mimi pikipiki yangu hapo ikilipuka ndafanya aje?
Tumerejeshwa nyuma sana. Mimi ni kijana nauza jaba, kwa nimefungua bezi yangu kadogo ya kuuza mogoka ili nipate kujituma. Sasa wamechoma mpaka stock yangu. Sasa hata sijui pa kuanzia ni wapi, pa kumalizia ni wapi.
That's the news wire. I'm Lea Ubag.
SpiceFM, Nairobi.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, staki kuongea. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we may find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, staki kuongea. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
At 10 minutes after 9 o'clock, welcome to the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room this morning. And we continue our conversation with the conversation around bringing an end to gender-based violence. We got into the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence that happens every year, of course, to have these issues looked at critically and say, let's actually move the needle. We'll be talking about how that needle may have or may not have moved this time around. Terry Maindo is a gender equality and social inclusion coordinator with Care Kenya. She joins us this morning in The Situation. Good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
She's also joined by Javan Kado, who is a reproductive health and rights specialist. Good morning.
Morning to you.
Welcome to the hot seats of The Situation Room. We're talking about a matter that has been spoken of for a very long time. We're looking specifically today into issues of violence against women and girls, ending online violence. Let's look into that because it seems to have changed. With the times, as they change, also the abuses do. But before we do that, Dennis wants to share today's proverb with you for your interpretation.
So the proverb or the statement that one Raila Odinga left Kenyans with was based off what you do today and looking deeper into the future. And this is what he said. Don't be afraid of dying. Even if you die and go to hell, there's nothing to worry about. Why? Because you will find your friends there. What do you think Raila meant to that statement?
Come again, please.
Don't be afraid of dying. Even if you die and go to hell, there's nothing to worry about. You'll find many of your friends there.
I would think of it as you will find your friends there. Don't be afraid of dying. Even if you go to hell, you'll find your friends there. Who you associate with, you will always be able to meet them wherever it is, if it is the hell bit. And if you're doing right, do right. If you're doing wrong, do wrong. And at the end of it, the consequences, let the chips fall where they may. That's my take on it.
Terry, how would you interpret it?
I think I'll also take it in the same direction and just mention the way they say birds of the same feather fly together. So it seems like when you do the same things together, you'll always tend to be in the same space together. Yeah.
You're even in death.
Do the same things the same.
Together.
Yeah.
Okay. 16 days of activism against gender-based violence came into effect essentially yesterday. And that, let's start again, gender-based violence. But in this specific, we're talking about violence against women and girls. But that we keep saying the needle should have moved. I think it was 2024, was it 2026, where we said that gender-based violence should have ended completely. This is what we're saying. But if I see what I see on X, that horrific story of a young girl in Mombasa who was defiled in the manner in which she was, and that it's almost become the norm, then I'm wondering if the needle is moving at all. Javan?
Thank you. It is concerning. And the challenge is we live in our own cocoons. And so long as you are insulated against it, you will never know about it. I will give you data. Within Nairobi County on its own, last year we had about 24,000 and change number of survivors seen in our facilities. That is 24,000 and a couple of hundreds. If you take the number 24,000, divide it by 365, I think you have about 67 or thereabouts per day. And if you go further and do a deeper dive, divide that by 24. You have about 3 people violated every single hour within Nairobi. Now, these 3 could be data. These 3 could be strangers. In media, you could report about it. But this, even one, that is the worst possible day of that individual's life. And we are having the numbers increasing. And these are just the numbers that are reported, the tip of the iceberg. Today is actually the beginning of the the 16 days of activism against GBV. Today is the International Day for Elimination of Violence against Women and Girls. And the days will be 16 from today up to the 10th of December, which is the International Human Rights Day. Now, when we talk about the violence is real, violence is happening, and it only comes to light when someone speaks about it. It's unfortunate that within the last week or so, there is a prominent Kenyan whose daughter was being violated in their house, intimate partner violence, and he spoke about it. The fact that he spoke about it brought it to light. And we are also pushing towards the 16 days is an opportunity for us to speak about things that people don't want to speak about. People are too comfortable. We need to have them not very comfortable. We need everyone to know that GBV happens. It is not a private thing. And right now, society is moving online. So the GBV that is there, the systems that are there, the patriarchal systems, when you talk about the child being defiled, it has been happening. And the fact of the matter is, some of these cases are dealt with hush-hush. We do not want to spoil the family's name. If it is in the house, the child has been violated, we do not want to talk about it. Itaharibu jina. We do not want to speak. Sometimes they are sorted out. Someone is given a chicken, a goat, a tray of eggs, or they're just discussed somewhere, hush-hush, and it is ended. We need this to stop. The law is very clear about it. You cannot discuss and wish away gender-based violence. It is a crime, and it should be prosecuted.
And in this, the build-up of these 2 weeks that are coming, when you look at the elimination of violence, and I agree with you, violence takes different shapes and forms, depending on society, the groupings, many factors. What really are we hoping to achieve? Because we've had instances before where we had our days of activism, days of pronouncing ourselves against a certain move, the Me Too effect, all those things come into play. But what would we say that should we be successful in these coming 2 weeks? This is what we are looking to yield, achieve, and work on progressively to eliminate exactly what you say, violence, because I opine is the right of every human being to exist as they should within a very peaceful, coexisting society and community. And where there are differences, they should be resolved amicably. So what are we looking to achieve?
The 16 days of activism is an opportunity for us to bring to light things that are usually hidden. We want to amplify the work that we're doing. When you talk about the 16 days of activism, please note that we actually have 365 days of action. We work with the survivors every single day. We amplify, we listen to the survivor stories, we give them the care that is needed, but the public does not know what is happening. If you wink at a beautiful woman in a darkened room, she will never know. We are working in darkness where with reference to the public. So what happens is, you need to know what is happening. The survivors need to know the care that is available. The survivors need to know where you can actually go for help, what to do, where to report it, and not... We're having a situation where some people have normalized violence. Where they grew up, violence was normal. And maybe they know no better. They grew up in a situation where their mother was being beaten, their sisters are being beaten, and they think physical violence is normal. But we know it is not. It is very wrong. During the 16 days of activism, we try to also raise this awareness. Let the public know, when we tell you 16 days, from today up to the 10th, we are sharing what we do. We are going to the communities. We are having road shows. We are having panel discussions. We are having candlelit vigils. We are having awareness raising sessions. We even have a theater group that was intent on staging a play specifically about GBV. So when we focus all our attention on explaining what we're doing and how it is helping every single person, then that's what the days are, the 16 days are about.
As a person who is in that space of trying to care, in a manner of speaking, the gender inclusion, what are some of the things that qualify because to be gender-based or to be violence within that space of gender? Because sometimes people misconstrue, you know, what could be normal cultural practice,
yes,
you know, against what is infamously not correct. So what qualifies?
So thank you so much. I just want to start by mentioning, like, this year theme, we are talking about uniting to end digital violence against all women and girls. And when you're looking at that, there's the key word there that is unite, meaning that collectively we have a responsibility. So looking at how collectively we need to work together, there's that aspect coming to your question on what is normal and what is not normal. Let's go back. What is normal? It should be something that does not affect anybody or hinder somebody from enjoying their human right. So culturally might be perceived right, but in real sense this thing is affecting somebody's enjoyment of their human right. So how do we draw a line by saying that we have normalized? He has spoke about normalizing GBV. Just looking from the way you are socialized, from the communities that we come from, we have normalized that. But is it really normal? Are people suffering as a result of cultural norms that have normalized? So in that perspective, anything that harms a person and hinders them from enjoying their human right, that is violence. And it is associated with your gender. It goes to that perspective. So I cannot stand here and say when you slap somebody, that is not violence, because it was just one slap. How has that affected a person? And yes, we have different forms of gender-based violence, spanning from physical abuse, we have the sexual abuse, and now we have the online sexual abuse, that this year we are focusing a lot on bringing it online and creating awareness so that people see the connection of online and offline gender-based violence.
You see, Terry, when we talk about gender-based violence, as has been established, is victims tend to be quiet, not speak, because first of all there is stereotype around it. Many feel shameful to come out and talk about it, but in staying quiet, they have continued to be abused even more, because then you give power to the person who has abused you before. Then you look at the communities that we belong to, like he's spoken in terms of people sit under a tree, they discuss. There's this issue that happened, I think it is part of the northern part of this young girl, and I remember the discussion on this girl was abused to a point that she died simply because she had said no to an elderly person marrying them, and we know where that ended. Prosecution is happening. But how then do we have a conversation where victims know that there is power in speaking? that victims know where to go. Like you say, they know where to go, but if you go to a police station, you're again subjected to relive the experience again, because you're told, explain to us how it happened.
Yeah.
You know, so how do we handle that such that people know what they need to do, and also that there is power in speaking?
Yeah, thank you so much. So he had already summarized on the issues of awareness creation, and I'll just say, being a gender specialist, we're always guided by our gender equality framework that we work with in care, and most gender specialists will relate to this, whereby you need to build the agency, change relation, and transform structures. So having these three angles is, first of all, looking at ensuring that the voice is there, yeah, and in this case, you need to bring a community whereby people understand that this thing is not normal first. You agree there's a problem. GBV is not a normal issue. So from that, how do we change relation in a patriarchy society whereby people support each others, and then transforming structures, coming in with laws and policies, and ensuring that these laws and policies are being implemented? That is the biggest challenge that we have in Kenya. Very beautiful laws, but they're not being implemented. So how do we ensure that? And then bringing in the survivors to know that once I speak out, I'm not going to suffer more abuses because of speaking out my lived reality, what I've gone through. So ensuring that there's that basis, and key thing, building the agents, support capacity of the duty bearers, the lawmakers, the enforcers, and so on, so that when I walk in that police station, I'm not going to be victimized anymore, but I'm going to be heard as a survivor, and I'm going to be believed. So the survivor-centered approach is very key, and that is something that we're trying to bring out here, so that people can learn and say, believing a survivor is the first thing. Number two, before it's substantiated, what support do we have for them? I might have suffered violence maybe 10 years ago. I decided to come and speak today. Don't question me. Why didn't I speak those 10 years ago? You don't know what made me not to speak. Believe in me and offer me the necessary support. So the key thing is, we need to challenge those harmful social structures that we have, that when a survivor comes out, they will get the support. Because most people don't want to come out because of that fear. They're afraid of being re-victimized again, so they don't come out. How do we make sure that it's safe for them to come out, speak, and get the necessary supports that we have? And another thing that always makes it hard, I talked about changing structures, when the perpetrators are not held accountable. Yeah, so you are fighting against somebody who is walking out freely, who is continuing to do the same thing, and as a human nature, I come out and speak out. What will that person say about me? Maybe they're in a position of power. How is that going to go on for me? So the key thing, we really have to touch this from, say, different dimension. And I think, as she put at the beginning, the Needle Is It movie. Yeah, there's a real problem, because we have been speaking year in, year out. How do we move this needle to the right, so that it's safe for everyone to thrive in? Yeah.
Okay, so there's a specific focus this year on online abuse. And when we talk about dealing with gender-based violence, and if we're focusing on women and girls, if we can't even say the word, then the likelihood of us being able to fight the thing reduces significantly. If we hear reports, as we hear and read transcripts of things that people have gone through for certain things, and we say things like alimfanyia vibaya, or we say things like he messed around with her, we can't even call it what it is. We seem to think that we can take away from the severity of the situation by calling it something that it is not. People are being defiled. People are being raped. People are being torn apart, literally, as terrible as it sounds. But that's what's happening.
Yes.
So does how we deal with it, with the words that we speak, contribute to how we then solve the problem later? So that's part one of the question. But if we're dealing with online violence, what does that look like? how do we say that this is online abuse or this is not? What does that look like? Because the other kind of abuse and defilement is very clear. We know what that looks like. What does it look like when it's online?
Thank you very much for that. In terms of dealing with the issue as it is, we are forever hesitant to stir the waters, I would say. And when you talk about alimfanyia vibaya, when you talk about calling it something else, it's good to call a spade a spade. And it's also good to be able to speak about what is happening. I'd like to backtrack slightly and go back to the police element that you picked up. Our police are forever receiving a bashing, left day in, day out. But when it comes to gender-based violence, I want to stand with them for once. The police have gender desks that are actually working. They have gender officers that are trained in trauma-informed, even interviewing of the survivors. So they are there. They are not as many as we would want to have, but they are there. They are available. They can do that. So back to the question that Ndu has asked. When people are not talking about it, silence does not empower the victim. Silence means the victim is still going to suffer in silence and even be embarrassed about speaking up. And when we have silence being encouraged and people not talking about it and even in hush-hush, it simply means that we are empowering the perpetrators because they know that they'll keep on doing whatever they're doing and there are no consequences. Silence means the survivor will still continue suffering. And when you talk about online violence, we might think of technology-facilitated gender-based violence as a totally different animal, but it is simply what has been happening online or offline, the rape, the defilements, the physical violence, the stalking, the harassment that has been there all along, that is just moving on to a new platform. And the bad thing about it is the anonymity that is there online. The geographical distribution of it. The internet never forgets. So when you talk about digital violence, it is violence that is committed, that is promoted or even enhanced by IT structures. So it is your phone, you have it on you. It could come in the form of sharing, non-consensual sharing of intimate images or other image sharing, image-based abuse. We have things like sextortion. We have deepfakes. We have impersonation. We have stalking. When people talk about mapenzi imenoga, to the extent that your better half or your worse half in this case is actually stalking you. They have an app on your phone that is tracking every single step you make. They are ensuring that they can even listen to your phone calls. So we have it there. We have cyber harassment. We have all these issues that are happening online. And the challenge becomes, right now, we have moved online. Whether it is love, online dating, whether it is education, when we come to business, or even jobs, people are working online. And when you're being stalked, you're being harassed, and all these things are happening, then it automatically means that this individual might not be able to do these things very comfortably, and they might end up withdrawing from whatever it is that they're doing.
Sticking with the online violence,
yes.
One would argue that this is happening to adults because you don't expect the minors to be on these social platforms by law. Correct? That's the position.
I beg to differ, but continue.
Continue. If all the social controls and legal controls are in play, we don't expect our minors to be on these social platforms. So looking at the online violence, one might opine that why not switch off? If you're being trolled on whichever platform, I don't need to mention any, if somebody is stalking you, why not switch off? Why not take the responsibility before it escalates to levels where it becomes a psychological issue for you as a person where you need to seek help? At what point do we draw the line? I guess that's what I'm trying to understand, between my personal responsibility and protecting my own space and how I interact, especially on these online platforms. Draw that line so that I don't allow the perpetrators, give them room to continue getting into my space and into my head, where I end up becoming a victim then. Where is that line?
I like what you've just asked, because it cuts to the meat of it. A lot of the situations that are there end up blaming the victim or passing the buck onto the victim. Why not stay offline? Why not keep safe? Why do they have to do that? It is never the victim's mistake being online. It is the perpetrator's problem setting those traps and harassing them online. We need to move away from the victim is the problem and they need to make sure they are safe. Yes, there is a bit of that needs to happen. But why is it that we are not castigating this individual who's actually harassing? Why is it that we are, and I believe to some extent we might have all been perpetrators of violence at some point or the other, because you have more than once laughed at an image or a video that was shared online. You might have even done worse, shared it. You might have commented, you might have followed.
That is violence?
We are encouraging it. We are not speaking up against it. We are talking about, when we talk about image-based violence, why did she share, or why did he share his nudes? Why did he share? He was supposed not to. No, they shared it in an intimate setting for that person's consumption. For this to happen and to be shared online, now that is violence. This person should not have done that. It is always the perpetrator's mistake, never the victim. We never blame someone who has been raped for wearing a short skirt. It's never about the dressing. It's always about the rapist.
But you see, as we speak about online abuse, and I just want to look at it from a political angle, if you allow me. And why am I taking it political? Because where there does exist political goodwill, it is easy to deal with such issues, because then you would find that the relevant agencies have the political push to be able to do right. But unfortunately, we live in a country where we see these abuses again being perpetrated by the same politicians. And when you talk about the politicians that we talk about, you look at the following that they do have and people who consume their information, and you look at, like you say, some of us have participated in one way or the other unknowingly in perpetrating the same violence we like. You share, you comment, you laugh. Then how do we sit and look at these as not only just a personal problem, not only a Kenyan problem, but a global problem that needs to be addressed? Because we will sit and say alitumia mpoa wake akajam akashare, you know, alikuwa na mwenzake in an amazing place doing that thing, it was shared, and then we come say it was photoshopped. We laugh and we forget. How do we deal with that when it's coming from a space where people have following and they are in a political class who are supposed to be pushing to end this violence?
If we take that up, for me, I believe that the power is with us. They might be in that position, but remember, we are also the people who have given them power. So the thing that we need to do is to clearly focus on how do we start talking about this thing? How do we stop condoning? Because as a society, we have been saying, it's our leader was posted, it's or wherever it is, in particular that media, we glorify that. And he has brought a very good thing. For the longest, the perpetrators have been encouraged, and it has been always the survivor's responsibility to protect themselves. So looking at it, and that's why we're having this conversation within this period, globally, collective responsibility. How are we going to work with the policymakers to ensure that people are held accountable? It doesn't matter your position. As a community, how are we going to raise our voice and say, no, when I see something about you, I don't repost it, I don't post it, or I don't start talking about it. I call it out and say, this is wrong. This should not have come in this process. Yes, our morals have failed us, I'll say that, as a nation, especially with our political class. That's my personal opinion. And I feel like there's a need of having a clear discussion to reinterrogate our moral values. How are we heading as a nation, and how are these leaders getting in that position? And that's why I say building the agency is very important. We have women leaders who sometimes, when we are working on ending femicide, doing all those campaigns, they were not there at forefront. You hear some comments and you're like, really? It's about the ages. How are these people raising? How are these people getting into those seats without the right capacity? And then how are we continuing to glorify them and giving them all these powers? Bora kiongozi amesema tunafuata. Bora sijui nani amepost, we are going to repost. We find it as a credible source. So I think it's really about moral. How do we go back and have those discussions? And then how do we work? Remember the three angle. We ensure that at all levels, all this, and then we have good laws that speaks about this. They can be penalized, but they are not being taken into account. How do we ensure that people are now brought down because of perpetuating this?
How do we, though? How do we? And I think that's the question here. That, unfortunately, I mean, look, there are too many examples in society, whether they're online, whether they're physical, of people who've gotten away with murder, literally. The very famous case of the young woman who went into a police station in Nairobi and went to report a case of sexual violence and then was abused by the officers on duty. That happens. There are people who have been abused and then go to court and or go to a chief to try and sort out the issue. And just like you said, Javan, that they'll say, okay, what can we do? Let's finish to maliza hii kitu ya familia hapa katikati, because what do we also know? That a lot of violence takes place between intimate partners or by a family member. So they say, let's not embarrass the family, without looking at the embarrassment that or the trauma that's causing to the person who has been defiled. And mind you, it's not just women or girls. We're now looking at abuse for men and boys. There are boys who grow up to be men who have been scarred for life because of things that happened to them when they were in school, and because we don't want to talk about it because we must be men. Those are the real conversations that we're refusing to have. That when somebody has been defiled, a mother, even when we can sit here, because let's get real, folks, we can talk about girls and women being abused, but when girls and women are being abused and they go to their aunties or mothers, what do the mothers ask them? What did you do? Number one. Number two, don't embarrass your husband or don't embarrass your boyfriend. They will not marry you tomorrow. Those are the things that are being said. How do we deal with those things? We have polycare centers that were set up. One, Zipporah Nderito, who has won many awards as a policewoman, who made sure that these polycare centers were set up in police stations. But how are they being used today? Tell me who has been defiled in the last 10 years and their perpetrator has been jailed, brought to book, even when we know who those people are? When has it happened?
I can give you from a point of authority that there have been prosecutions very successfully. Yes, they are not as many as we would want, but they are there. We have pieces of legislation that work. The laws that we have are as good as the enforcement. We have the Sexual Offences Act, which is currently being reviewed, that speaks to rape, defilement, and such. And a lot of people have been sentenced, some to life, some to 20 years, some less, because of either rape, defilement, even attempted. So people have been prosecuted successfully. But the challenge is the legal system is such that if you do not report, then the police cannot
do anything about it.
Yeah, they can't do anything about it. So as had been mentioned earlier, if we have a system where people are not speaking about what is happening, everything is hush-hush, everything is hidden, even the neighbors don't want to be, and the term is the nosy neighbor bit. When you hear someone
being... be on the estate group.
Yeah, you don't want to be with that group. When the neighbor hears his or her neighbor screaming in the middle of the night, they say that is just their thing. Mambo ya watu wawili hauingili. When you see someone being violated and you keep quiet, even if it's happening next to you. We have different individuals. We have, if two people being violated, there are those that will keep quiet, no matter what.
Okay, so if I could interject, because
Yes.
I think to an extent, I guess for both of you, because we lament about things, and we do that often, even here in this room, but then we're also trying to look towards solutions. So what you've mentioned now, I know it's online, it's physical. Maybe the physical abuse far outweighs the online abuse, which to an extent is understandable. I don't know. But what do you do? There are people who we will have the conversations, and we know that there are people who scream every other night in the estates. They're being beaten up. We know it. You see the person the next day, and you can see the physical manifestation of this abuse. You are awake when this abuse is going on. What do you do? Do you go knock on the door and say, "Excuse me, can you leave her alone?" Or can you stop this? Don't harass this man, or don't do this to this boy. What do we actually do?
Yes, do that. Do that. You can actually go bang on that door and say, "Stop, you're making noise." But we usually don't do that. We don't want to be the bad neighbor or the nosy neighbor. You can do that, and you need to do that, because what usually happens, and the annoying bit is, you will have this neighbor a few months later, data says women who were violated, intimate partner violence, usually leave 7 to 12 times before they actually leave. So they were slapped the very first time, they didn't leave. You had them shouting, you didn't say anything. And then if it happens that they die, God forbid, then you will start speaking. You will say during the funeral. And we saw the signs. If you see the signs, say something, do something, go knock on that door. If you cannot knock on that door, then police have informants. Call the police. Tell them this is happening at this particular place, and the police will arrest you. If I'm fighting with you and we are friends and we're just fighting, you can take me to the police. You can go report. And if we are not, we both don't want to report, the police can still arrest us for a fray. There is always an option. It is just that we do not report.
Well, it's sad that you gave such a high number for Nairobi, because I assume that's the number of just the reported cases.
Just the reported cases,
many cases go unreported, undiscussed, unnoticed.
Yes.
But now, for those that are reported, and sometimes action is taken, especially when it comes to issues of, violation, the first thing you hear is that some people will plead psychiatric issues, or the judge will say, we need to have a psychiatric assessment before we can offer a sentence. Which sometimes, yes, there could be validity on that claim, but sometimes also something that, in my opinion, I think could be a scapegoat of finding a way not to assume full responsibility. So these perpetrators, in one way or the other, the cases go unprosecuted accordingly. How does that interfere with the workings of your working time to streamline between now empowering us as a civilian and working with the judiciary to ensure that there is, it is seamless, it flows? Because deterrent is what would work best. Once people understand that if these will be the consequences, psychologically aware or not, then be deterred from participating. How is that working for you?
Yeah.
The laws are there. I spoke of the Sexual Offences Act. We also have, when it comes to intimate partner violence, we have the PADVA, Protection Against Domestic Violence Act, which helps. We have the Children's Act. We have the cybersecurity legislation that might have issues, but we are happy about some very interesting parts in it that help to forestall and deal with violence and even provide avenues. So those are there. And I believe if we are able to share that information, then people will know. You can actually report. Something can be done. Legally, you are innocent until proven guilty. They will have their day in court. And if the evidence bears for them to be prosecuted and sentenced, then that will happen. So we cannot take away from their rights as much as they are guilty. In our opinion, it is for the judiciary to determine that. And if we are able to prove, that is why when they come to the facilities, we don't just provide care, we also link them to the support that they need. If it is sexual violence, we will advise them, don't wash your clothes. Keep them. and preserve them as evidence for the police. When it comes to digital violence, we will talk about screenshots. The survivor might not know. They might also not know that they're able to report on the various tech platforms. So this is advice that they are given so that they're able to collect this evidence so that it is available to sustain a prosecution.
Maybe before you pose the question, I just wanted to say we have become enablers of GBV, and that is why he's speaking about us speaking it out, knocking that door and saying, hey, dude, stop what you are doing. This is not right. So that one person, you remember what we say, they normally say, everything goes bad south when we all stop talking about it. So when you start talking about it, calling out your friends and telling them what you are doing is not right, that is a huge step. Another thing, yes, we are speaking about the policies. As practitioners in this field, we are having other engagements. Like now we have the Court Users Committee, where there's composition of the judiciary, the magistrates are there, we're having the civil society, the law enactors, the police, and all those coming to sit down in the same forum, telling us the challenges they are going through in the executing the laws, and also as giving the practical example from the field. So when we have those conversations, we have seen cases have started to move because we are able to take stock. It's more of an accountability space whereby everybody is accountable on the roles that they're supposed to do in all this chain. So I think accountability is key for us to ensure that the policies are being implemented, and that takes all the angles. And I want to point out most of the CSO, including Care Kenya, we are embracing the localization agenda, whereby we are shifting the powers and resources to the community, because that is where the problems do happen, and those are the people who have the solution. Nice. So for us just to work as a connector there to enable that the local actors are able now to call out this, to ask for the right measures to be taken, to demand accountability from the government, to demand the implementation of the policies. Because as an NGO sitting in Nairobi, I'll not be able to address a GBV case in Turkana, but we have an organization in Turkana that is doing that. How do we support that organization so that when the case goes to the chief says, I have nothing to do, I cannot do anything. I think these people should go back home and sort out this issue. Right. The NGO is there to hold them accountable and say we must move forward with this.
So, unfortunately, when we talk of cases and victims, we are talking of things that have already happened. We are talking of people who have suffered, and others, unfortunately, they have died. Localization, uniting, intervention. Is there a way of marrying this to a more mitigative approach, a more preventive approach? Whether it is online, when I'm buying my teenage child a phone, they have some awareness on, safeguards, how to use this and how to protect themselves and how to even raise the issue and flag some of these issues. Have you had opportunities, perhaps with the other partners? Because we keep developing a curriculum. We teach people life skills. And one of the life skills, in my opinion, was to be safety. And safety can be, it is very broad. Is there an opportunity for you to have an input? Because in my opinion, all this violence narrows down to morality and values that we have as a society. How do we inculcate what you are pushing for, which is very good, into sort of a curriculum system, value system, whereby from a teenage age, I'm already knowing that behaving like this towards such a person in a society, or somebody behaving like this towards me, is tantamount to violence.
And that's why I mentioned about building the agency.
Right.
So that people are able to know this is safe, this is not safe. Those young children, the adolescents, you cannot deny them. Internet is here with us. Yeah. It has penetrated so much in our spaces that we cannot live without it. So how do I make sure that my daughter is aware of these risks? As you're using this gadget, yes, as a parent, I have the parent control. But again, that time that I'm not able to follow, maybe I'm here, I'm not following what she's doing maybe at the moment. So how do I ensure that I have built her capacity as a young girl who is using that gadget to know that this is safe, this is not right, I should stop here, and I should be able to pinpoint, like to know these are the signs of not safe environment for me again, because when she's doing her online classes, how can she pinpoint that there's somebody doing this on me and I need to talk to my parent for support, I need to report, and so on. Again, there's another angle that is coming in here. How do we work with the tech people to ensure that they have provided those safety features whereby the kid can be able to point, even an adult can be able to report and get support from there, just ensuring that their apps are very secure as an angle of protecting these people, as you also work towards ensuring that people know that these are not the right signs, this is not good, here I'm being harassed, I need to seek this support, where can I go? So there's a lot of different angles. That's why we need to unite collectively and work together to ensure that we make online safe for all of us.
You see, when you talk about online safety, it is critical because at times, if you just go deeper into the applications that we have today, there is even a room for you to include text that you do not want to appear in your feed, including emojis. You can insert emojis that you don't want to appear. But as we talk about that, then there is the aspect that all these apps that you consume in the country are apps that are registered in other countries operating under their laws. In the country as we speak today, we use these apps with those laws. So then how do we push this conversation such that as much as we're consuming these laws, they are also operating and recognizing the laws that we have in the country, such that every app that is operating has a responsibility to meet our laws. It is happening in other countries. If you go to Euro, there is a Digital Services Act that controls how these apps do act. So are we looking at pushing for legislation that will make it easier for us to control what is happening online? Responsibility for these apps to make it easier for victims to report, to be able to also just pick up what would be violence, and them themselves banning someone from using their app, and even going further to reporting to relevant agencies to help in this fight. Javan.
Thank you very much. Part of the responsibility with reference to that is the governments. You've mentioned acts in Europe, and most of the apps, the platforms on which our people engage, are domiciled in either Europe or America. So they speak about the terms of service and the legislation from their country of origin. But for them to be used here, we can actually do that. The government can do that, and they should do that. They are moving towards it slowly. We are part of the I think we're one of the fastest digitizing economies there is, but the legislation, the social norms are playing catch up. And we need to move with speed because this is happening and it is here. But part of the challenge is a lot of people do not know what you've just mentioned. You can actually determine what you can see and what you don't want to see on your particular interaction with the platform. People do not know where to report if they want something to be pulled down. That is information that is lacking. At the same time, you'll realize that on a lot of these platforms, even their lexicon, their terminology, what they considered to be violence is based on the Queen's English, as it were. It is not the local terminology. And a lot of the insults are actually in vernacular. So it is part of our responsibility to also build up the lexicon so that we will share this is wrong. This is something that is happening. And as Joe had mentioned, when it comes to the prevention component, people need to be aware. And we cannot simply just pull the phones out. The technology is there to be used. It's a tool. And the same way we shout and insult people with our mouths is the same way we praise God with the same mouth. So technology as a tool should be used. And we should be able to guide the children, as Terry mentioned. The government has a role to play in terms of the legislation. The platforms need to be held to account. And if they are not doing anything about it, then we should get off them, if possible. We, as communities, should stop sharing. We should stop talking about these things, commenting, posting things. Schools should also be teaching about digital safety so that we start it from the ground up. You are taught maths in school. We need to be able to teach them digital safety, the same way we teach maths in school.
How do we know, Terry, if we're doing better? What are the metrics that we use for evaluation. So I know it's a very NGO speak kind of thing, monitoring and evaluation. But how do we know that we're actually doing better, that we're seeing cases drop, that there's more awareness, that people know we can't just go and do any kind of nonsense and get away with it? How do we know that we are moving the needle?
Yeah, so for us, we know we are moving the needle when people feel safe to engage in any space. That is a very big indication for us without even counting on the number. Like, am I safe? Can Njeri come and speak here safely without being judged, without feeling like her words will be used against? That is one of the key priority. Another thing we are looking at it, when people are speaking, you see, when media, you are taking this up in the right way, communities are speaking about it, and then survivors are coming out to speak, to tell their own story in their own language. We are not just going to count how many people are maybe are victims. Yeah, the discussion we were having before we came in here, how many people are victims, but how many survivors are out here speaking of the services that they have gotten, speaking of the support that they are receiving from the community. And then we are looking about the implementation of the policies, accountability aspects. The community is holding the government accountable to ensure that the environment that they're thriving in is safe, the environment that they're living in, they don't have to live in fear. So it's a multifaceted approach that we use to ensure that each and every particular angle is taken into consideration with their own uniqueness. We cannot go with a one shoe fit all, but actually for me, I'll say we look at people thriving in a safe environment as a key indicator for us to say that the needle is moving. When there's still hesitation, when there's still people saying that, let me shut from TikTok, let me move away from Twitter. But the statistics shows Twitter is leading when it comes to the issues of online abuse.
Yes.
Yeah, Twitter, it's leading. Actually, I think followed by Facebook, if not TikTok. But Twitter is number one. That is where people are being harassed. And you see even most leaders, how they're facing so many backlash in that spaces, harassment, all those AI things and so on. So how do we ensure that people thrive in those spaces safely?
Right. Today marks the first day of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence and breaking the cycle, ending online violence against women and girls. I guess it's also time for us, as we do that, to include boys and men, because that's where we are in these spaces. There'll be a lot of conversations around this, and that this year, hopefully, we can get to the place where we actually see that we're going into a good direction. Terry Maindo is a gender equality and social inclusion coordinator with Care Kenya. Javan Kado, reproductive health and rights specialist. Thank you both for being here this morning, starting off this conversation on day one.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here in the Situation Room, and rounding it off, Josphat, well done. Thank you. Aseto, welcome back. We continue with the Situation Room. Enjoy the rest of your listening, and we'll talk again tomorrow, God willing. It's 10:01. Good morning.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. More than 447 IBC officials have completed a week-long training on preparations for the Magarini by-election in Kilifi County. The officers who will serve as IBC clerks at 193 polling stations in Magarini area also took the oath of allegiance ahead of the 27th election. The IBC regional officer, Juma Musa, has urged IBC officials to ensure they are accountable